Well, the Lady Gamecocks advancing right here in Greenville, Diesel, as we thought they would, right? No one doubted their first round matchup against Vanderbilt. I'll have some audio from Dawn Staley and a couple of players in just a few minutes from now as I feverishly made my way here to be joined with you, Diesel, after waiting on the Dawn Staley presser at Bon Secours Wellness Arena. The Lady Gamecocks get the win over Vanderbilt.
Did you
today.
say arena?
I think I said arena on accident.
Arena.
Yeah, arena. Final score today, 84-63. The final score, though, Diesel, not really indicative. Vanderbilt cut it to 5 late in the game, and just with a few minutes to go, 3 minutes, I believe, South Carolina mounts a 16-0 run to end the game, and the Lady Gamecocks advance. They will play the winner of Kentucky, Oklahoma, who are playing right now. They'll play tomorrow at 4:30. But no big surprise. You and I both thought, and most of the Tolos as well, Diesel, thought that the Gamecocks would at least make it to Saturday, if not Sunday.
Yeah, speaking of Rainers, we got a story later on in the show, Cole, about a cross-country skier who froze his Rainer off twice. Crazy story out there. But no, Vanderbilt had one heck of a third quarter there, putting up 25 points in the third quarter. South Carolina had looked really good, consistent through 3 quarters of this game. It was that third quarter that they'll have to go back and look at and figure out why did they just stop scoring in the third quarter of that game. For South Carolina, 24 in the first, 24 in the second, 23 in the fourth quarter, but only 13 points in the third, and that is when Vanderbilt took advantage. They went on a run and put up a 25 spot themselves in the third quarter, and yeah, that's how it gets close late. You just wonder if that's one of those situations, Cole, where the team like Vanderbilt just kind of burned up all their energy trying to make that feverish comeback, and then you get down to the last couple of minutes of the game, and you just don't have enough left. The legs are toast.
Well, you know what? I asked Dawn Staley after the game what it was in that third quarter, and she said it. And you'll hear some audio from her in just a few minutes, Diesel. She said it was bad basketball. Very simple. South Carolina just did not play well in the third quarter. Now, I will say this. Chloe Kitts today, especially down the stretch, fourth quarter, having a courtside view, a courtside seat to watch Chloe Kitts, she was amazing today. 11 points in the fourth quarter. Basically, Diesel, you know how in baseball teams bring in their closer to get things done. Chloe Kitts was the closer for the Lady Gamecocks today. A really good fourth quarter. Malaysia Fawali, as always, she was awesome. She has some plays where you watch her and you see what she does, and you just kind of look at the person beside you like, did she really just do that? She's really, really good. And again, it all goes back to what we talked about the other day, Diesel. You've got 4 players for South Carolina coming off the bench, and I can't imagine what it's like for an opposing coach when they go to their bench and South Carolina goes to their bench. And you got 4 McDonald's All-Americans coming off the bench.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes it tough. The bench way outscored Vanderbilt today.
You know, NIL has become such a big part of the men's game, and I'm sure that some players at the South Carolinas, UConns, UCLAs, LSU, et ceteras of the world, they're making a little bit of money in NIL, not what the fellas, their counterparts on the other side of the court are making, but I do wonder, Cole, as NIL starts creeping its way and more companies and more fans are willing to invest their own money into NIL apparati. Is that the plural of apparatus?
I don't know.
Apparatuses or apparati? Whatever it is, that you may see this talent start to spread out among more schools. You know, you can see like a huge talent discrepancy drop off in South Carolina's roster, and as is UCLA's and as is UConn's. Their rosters are elite top to bottom, right? And the players that don't get a whole lot of minutes for those teams would be starting at most other schools, even in their conferences. So I'm interested to see, Cole, and we've seen it happen. It started with football, obviously, then it moved its way into men's basketball. It's moving its way into baseball. It's going to start moving its way into women's basketball and maybe some softball as well, where fans are willing to invest their money in other sports besides just the big ones. And I wonder, Cole, if we're going to see some of this talent spread out over time.
Kentucky currently leads Oklahoma 29-26 late in the second quarter there. That game in Greenville over at Bon Secure. So the winner of this game will play South Carolina tomorrow. Like I said, South Carolina today came out a little sluggish, Diesel, a little slow to start. About 5 minutes, 5.5 minutes into the game, they just all of a sudden woke up. It's like somebody hit the power button, right? The reset button, and they were really, really good. That second quarter, it felt like being there the second quarter was probably game over. And if the third quarter were much like the second quarter, I think South Carolina could have blown them out. South Carolina ends up, like I said, if you look at the final score, you think, oh, no, it wasn't close. But South Carolina ends up pulling away late in the game. Let's hear from Dawn Staley, who spoke to the media just, 25 minutes ago.
I could just help my team do what I can do.
This is actually Malaysia Fulwali.
That's what I went out there and do.
I'm going to skip ahead a little bit.
Just kind of contribute to the team.
I think
Some visible frustration from your part in the third quarter.
I don't know who this
It
idiot
seemed
is.
like Vanderbilt was just able to disrupt what you guys were doing so well in
Probably
the second
well
quarter.
dressed, though.
What was your frustration, or what were you most frustrated with in the third quarter? A lot of conversation with the officials as well.
it was on us. We did not make good decisions out there, and a lot had to do with what Mandy was doing to us. They doubled us. They pressured us. They forced us into some turnovers that created some easy baskets for them, that created momentum for them to cut into our lead. Just bad basketball. We mentioned it at halftime, like we're playing really good basketball. I said really good basketball is contagious, and really bad basketball is contagious. And we got a chance to see the face of both of them. Part of that was because of what Vandy was pressuring us to do. Part of that was just decision making, playing a little bit faster, which probably Vandy had a lot to do with that. So I was happy that we could get a unit in there that could just play well together on both sides of the basketball. And it took us a little bit of time to figure out what unit that would be.
It's interesting. South Carolina, Diesel, had obviously the home court advantage, right, with it being in Greenville. And Gamecock Nation showed up and showed out today. It was loud, very, very loud at times. There was one reporter there. I'm not sure if he was with Vanderbilt or if he was one of those clickbait kind of guys, but he asked the Vanderbilt coach twice at the very end of her presser before Dawn came up. The first question to the Vanderbilt coach was, what kind of advantage is it for South Carolina to play here in Greenville, right? and the Vanderbilt coach gave a really good answer, and then he followed it up with, well, is there really any way that, the SEC tournament, the women's tournament, can be neutral? Because obviously this wasn't neutral. He was upset. I don't know, if he was a Vandy guy. He was trying to. Oh, he was. I was sitting next to him like, come on, dude, really? And I thought he was going to ask. I mean, he kind of asked Dawn Staley a similar question, but. I mean, goodness gracious, it doesn't matter. He brought up a stat: South Carolina 16-1 in Greenville. Right? Do you look at that as an unfair advantage? Well, they've been really good. They've won national championships. It didn't matter if they played in Greenville or Pittsburgh.
Well, I mean, to be fair, Cole, I think Vanderbilt played better in this venue. They kept it closer in this venue than they did on their own home court a couple of weeks ago or a couple of games ago. 82-54 was the final score
wasn't close,
when
was
they played at Vandy just 4 games ago, and then it was 84-63.
How many people you think were at Vandy for that game?
Yeah, right.
You know what?
At that point, why not just play all games at neutral sites because home court advantage is unfair?
Well, here's the reality of it. And if there's any coaches out there listening today at any level, please tell me if I'm wrong here. Diesel, 99% of coaches would rather play in that environment today, even if they were the opposing team, rather than play in an NP gym. That's just the reality.
Because these players feed off that energy, whether it's on their side or whether it's against them.
So I don't want to hear that. That's a lousy excuse. Now, I will say, before we get to some more Dawn audio, Diesel, Chloe Kitts and Malaysia Fulwali were the 2 players that were being interviewed first before Coach. I asked Chloe Kitts about her big fourth quarter. The funniest thing I think I've ever seen during an interview, I was caught off guard. Chloe was answering my question, and during her answer, Dawn said, "Thanks." That was all. Thanks. And Caught me off guard, caught the media off guard. Chloe looked over at Dawn and was confused why Dawn said thanks during Chloe's answer to me. And Dawn came back and said, you just gave away our play. She did. Chloe was describing one of the plays, and Dawn said, now everybody knows our play. And she was laughing about it, but she did. She said, thanks. Now everybody knows our play because Chloe was walking through it. But a really good game. Here's one or two more questions and answers from Dawn Staley.
Time out at the end of the fourth quarter, then you guys went on the 16-0 run. Just what was the conversation like with your team in order to close out that game?
I don't even remember what I said. I mean, it was about making plays at that point. It was about shoring up how we wanted to defend the ball screens. It was making sure that we were running sets that would get the hot hand the ball, which was Chloe. And then we allowed Lay to get the ball on the open floor and pretty much play make. And fortunately for us, it worked out.
Front.
Chloe really became that go-to player for you guys, even in the third quarter. I think led you with 6 points. Just what did you think of her performance today, before the press conference, and how important was that for you guys?
I mean, this is really who Chloe is. Starting to play very consistent basketball. She wants the ball in her hands. She wants to be a playmaker. She wants to be the one that can score it or dish it to a teammate. I thought her teammates did a really good job at finding her. I thought she did a great job at just making a play. We called her number, and she delivered for us. I would imagine that this is kind of how she envisioned her entire season going, but it didn't go that way. I mean, it was a little bit up and down, inconsistent. But Chloe's strong enough mentally, physically, to be able to handle, the rigors of this league. No one's going to just kill it every single night. But if you don't have the mental fortitude to stay with it through the ups and the downs, you won't see consistent play like this at any point in the season.
She was asking about Chloe Kitts there. She finished the day, Diesel, 25 points, 10 rebounds. South Carolina held off a big rally, obviously. Malaysia Fulwiley, 15 off the bench. Fegan, 13 points. South Carolina now 28-3. They've won 5 straight. South Carolina advanced to the SEC tournament semifinals today. Diesel for the 6th straight season and the 12th time under Dawn Staley. 12 times in the semis. And obviously they'll play the winner of Kentucky-Oklahoma, who tomorrow at 4:30. Who
31-26 halftime score of that game. Kentucky leading 31-26.
They're just so good. Like you talked about it. A couple of questions were asked of Dawn Staley. When you talk about Joyce Edwards and Malaysia coming off the bench, they have so many weapons. And when you're sitting, it's really fascinating that when we're sitting here talking about women's basketball, 10 years ago, 15 years ago on local radio, I don't know that sports stations were starting the shows off with women's basketball.
No, it probably doesn't even get mentioned.
Right.
Other than a byline. Steph, final score, South Carolina did this.
But when you sit courtside and watch this brand of basketball that South Carolina puts on the floor, it's impeccable. It's remarkable, Diesel. They're so good. They're so deep. Joyce Edwards off the bench. Malaysia off the bench. Joyce Edwards is going to be really, really special. Malaysia Fulwiley, her speed, I don't know that I've ever seen a college female basketball player play with the reckless abandon that she plays with. She's just phenomenal.
I guarantee you smarter people than I are studying this South Carolina women's program, trying to figure out how they maintain their level of consistency.
Yeah.
Number one, for multiple seasons, winning basically every single game. Number two, it's making sure you advance deep into your own conference tournaments year in and year out. Number three, it's maintaining their rosters year over year. You don't see a lot of players leaving South Carolina's roster. As a matter of fact, they're leaving other SEC programs to join South Carolina's roster. They don't lose players. They don't really have to deal with that. So, I'm sure consultants are in Dawn Staley's email and trying to get meetings with her and trying to figure out how it is she's doing what she's doing. I wouldn't reveal a thing because what she's doing is special.
And it's hard. It's hard to do what she's done in the sense of having so many girls and females and ladies on your roster who are that good, who could start at a lot of other schools, right? Mm-hmm. Be as good as they are, yet sit on the bench to start the game. That says a lot. Also, Diesel, want to mention last night, Clemson almost pulled off a huge upset in the ACC tournament. Clemson was going against a very good Louisville team who was 13-5 in conference, 21-9 overall. Took them to overtime and had a chance at the end of the game to win the game. Down 70-68 was the final score. Sean Poppy, we mentioned him yesterday. First year head coach for Sean Poppy, has done a tremendous job. They almost had a huge upset last night over Louisville. And then today in the ACC women's side, Georgia Tech, NC State playing right now. Cal, Notre Dame at 5 o'clock. Louisville, Duke at 7:30. And North Carolina, Florida State was earlier today. North Carolina defeated Florida State 60-56. And don't want to forget the SoCon tournament underway today as well, Diesel, in Asheville.
Yeah, we didn't really spend a lot of time talking about this yesterday on the show, but it's worth a quick mention that Clemson men's basketball, they let Boston College hang around late in that game. A lot of credit deserved for the way that they were able to fight off Boston College's best shot to beat them. And how many times, Cole, have we talked about this? 4 out of 5 guys scoring in double figures off of that starting rotation. Chauncey Wiggins coming off the bench. He only had 7 points off the bench Wednesday night, but he had more points than Dylan Hunter did out of the starting lineup. So when you can get 4 guys scoring in double figures most nights, just about every night, you're going to win a lot of games.
Also, also want to mention we were supposed to have Bob Ritchie on the show today. He had a scheduling conflict, the head basketball coach at Furman, so he couldn't make it on with us. And I do want to say, I don't know if any of you Tolos know this or not, my thoughts and prayers with Dan Scott. Dan Scott's in the hospital and not making the trip to Asheville. I believe Tom Van Hoy's up there, Diesel. I don't know if Tom has some help or if Tom's going solo, but I saw where Dan Scott posted that on Twitter earlier today. So I know, as much as pain as he's dealing with physically, he's probably just in as much pain not being there for the SoCon tournament.
Did you ever watch the movie Major League?
Yeah.
Do you remember when the coach had like a heart attack or something like that, and they put him in the hospital, and then the Indians get to the World Series, he's on his bed with the radio in his ear, jumping, screaming, hooting, hollering. That's going to be Dan Scott. I know him.
I wonder, we don't have the technology. Dan could call the game from the hospital, right?
He could do it.
He could do it.
Just be like, Dan, you got to keep it calm, okay? You let Tom get animated and get loud, and you be the even keeled voice of reason. Can you do that for us?
You don't want to get too worked up. So, any Tolos who are making the trip out to Greenville this weekend, let me know. I saw a couple of you earlier today at Bonds. I did not see JB though. Remember, JB told us yesterday.
Did he?
JB just chimed in and said Tolo. JB, I didn't see you today, man. So let me know if you're going to be there the rest of the weekend. South Carolina, 4:30 tomorrow, hopefully in the championship on Sunday. The nightcap tonight is Florida, LSU, and Florida, Diesel, was a 14.5-point dog to Alabama last night, and they upset them. Anything can happen, man, in these postseason tournaments. You just never know. JB, what's up? Brian Pettit on the stream as well. MD75 says, I think Carolina took offense with your rebounding comment. What did I say? You know what he's talking about? Did I say something about rebounding? I don't
Probably.
know. Oh, I'm sure I did.
It was probably very insulting.
Texter says, Full Wiley has an NIL deal with Curry Brand. Steph signed her back at the beginning of 2024. She's unbelievable. I mean, she really is, Texter. JB says, I was at the well today, had fun. It was a madhouse getting a parking spot. I didn't see you, JB. I wish you would have came down and said hello. Diesel, he's right. It took me about 8 minutes just to get out of the little loop, where
out of the media lot.
When you take a right, where that back lot is, you take a right. I don't know the name of the road, just to get out to the main red light. He's right. It was a bleep show, and I can imagine it'll only get worse as the weekend goes on.
When we come back, Cole, we'll have the pleasure of being joined by our good buddy Shane Connuck from the Charlotte Observer, talking NASCAR, talking Carolina Panthers, all things Charlotte sports. We'll discuss things like that with him next on the Fan Upstate. awaiting Shane Connuck, who is joining us now as we speak, jumping right into the stream. Shane, you look like you got some special digs around you. What's happening, man? Where are you? Tell us.
Yeah,
about
just
this.
found, stopped at Bojangles, had to drive 20 miles an hour through McBee and made it here to Florence, South Carolina for these state basketball championships.
Love it.
Through where? Where did you say you drove through?
McBee, the town where you have to go slow down to 25 miles an hour?
That's Greenwood. Yeah. Greenwood,
Well,
South
McBee's the
Carolina.
one on the way when you're going toward Darlington, if it's like a thing when you go to a NASCAR race. Yeah.
I thought you were talking about Mayberry from Andy Griffith. I didn't know where we were going there. So, Shane, let's figure something out a minute. Shane is with the Charlotte Observer, Diesel, but he's covering the South Carolina state championships. What am I missing? Shane, tell our Tolos.
Yeah, we've got Lancaster going for a state championship. It's first at the 4A level at 4 o'clock. Girls game happening right now as North Augusta takes on West Side. A lot of games happening today, tomorrow, this weekend here at the Florence Center.
Lancaster.
Wow.
Lancaster. Where's Lancaster? Is that towards Charlotte? Shane?
Up in the upstate, the Lancaster Bruins. They haven't won since 1949-50 at the Class A level, and now going for their first 4A title. They lost to Irmo a year ago. Got a kid, Jordan Watford. He can play. He's going to be playing at Queens University up in Charlotte. An all-around big man. He can shoot. He can take threes, and we'll see a lot of them today.
Shane, you wrote, and I know you had a podcast discussing one of the brightest up-and-coming stars in NASCAR. I want you to tell us more about Connor Zilisch. I know you're high on him. Other people around the sport are high on him. What makes you think this guy, Connor, is going to be the next big thing?
Connor Zilisch has just raced at so many different levels. It's not just that, these guys grow up in Charlotte and they get their whole life preparing to begin in NASCAR one day. He has already won the 24 Hours at Daytona. He has already won in various international motorsports series. And then once he turned 18, he joins Trackhouse Racing's development program in addition to just hanging around the track, working with guys like Kyle Larson. The vet's already taken him in. And again, he has experience in nearly every level of motorsports.
And do you think this guy, I really do find it intriguing, the transition, like when you talk about going to Sprint Cup, for Connor's standpoint, or from his standpoint, when you talk about him being a talented racer. How long does, in your mind, it take drivers like that to kind of get conditioned and familiar with the week in and week out grind on the sprint level that's different than other levels?
Well, we see it takes more than one race. It takes more than one race, but Connor Zilisch got into Xfinity cars, and he has won several times. He's good on road courses. He has won on road courses in the NASCAR Xfinity Series, most recently on Saturday. So this is a guy who, yes, the Cup Series is a different level, but he is showing that he knows what he's doing when he gets into NASCAR cars at a very young age.
Shane, you were saying there that, he's gotten in with some of the more established drivers a little farther up the pecking order. What is that culture like? I remember a few years ago, who was it? Ben Roethlisberger said that he was not going to mentor, was it Mason Rudolph, I think, because, I guess he looked at him as competition, that he's the guy that's coming for his job. So he's on his own. I'm doing my own thing. What's that culture like among NASCAR drivers? If they look and see somebody that is working their way up, is it strictly within teams? Is it strictly within, we think this guy is going to be a Ford driver or a Toyota driver, so they kind of mentor their own? How does that work?
And it's interesting because at this point, you're getting it. Some of these guys become owners of themselves, and then they got to worry about racing for their own self in addition to other drivers whose cars that they own. So you're starting to see that now, where how much older are these drivers getting, that you're in your 20s, you're in your 30s, you're worried about your own career and winning a lot more races for yourself. Or you can have the Denny Hamlin approach that he started, where, all right, I've won a few Daytona 500s on my own. I haven't won that championship, but now I'm going to own two other cars that have a chance at getting toward that championship. And then that creates the dynamic where even if Denny Hamlin doesn't win that championship, he was a regular season champion with Tyler Reddick a year ago.
It seems like a heck of a way to also build up a stable of guys who will push you from behind. If you mentored a guy or two, they're not going to be looking to cut you off at the knees and pass you and bump you and spin you out. They might give you a little bump because they owe you a little bit, huh?
Yeah, exactly. And also, especially a guy like Connor Zilisch, who's that young, coming into the sport at this new time when you're having so much different ownership and different stuff changing.
Shane, I didn't know if we were going to get you back on. I saw on TikTok earlier in the week that you've now went big time on us, right? You're was it PRN at the track that I saw you? Was that right?
The Performance Racing Network. Yeah, it was on there
TV?
earlier in the week.
Wow.
TV star. I mean, it's LaMelo Ball. Charlotte Observer is his day job. You know, I mean, we just are fortunate to have Shane on. Let me ask you about excuse me, Shane. Let me ask you about last week's race. I told Diesel at some point last week that as much as I do try to watch the week in and week out races, that I struggle with the road courses. However, I didn't struggle as bad as I thought I would on Sunday. The road course, Circuit of the Americas, Echo Park Automotive Grand Prix, I didn't think it was terrible. I actually thought that it was a pretty good race. They did a very good job, I thought, Shane, of explaining the layout of the track, the ins and outs, the turns. Christopher Bell, dominant once again, 2 weeks in a row. What were your overall thoughts? And I guess how would you have graded last week's race?
Code is another track that continues producing good races where we're seeing strong winners, even if it ends up being that the entire last lap is just Tyler Reddick thinking maybe he'll come up when he started on the pole and led the race early, that he will be the one with the most speed, kind of like William Byron at a recent COTA race. But no, held off by Christopher Bell in the lead, winning for the second straight week. It shows that this is a track that produces good races. Like you said, a road course doesn't have to be this just mess. They're turning multiple ways and it's going to be not a legitimate winner. No, the best drivers in this sport are starting to figure out how to win in these races.
Shane, NASCAR has always very much been a boys' club. It's been dominated by the boys. We've seen some females make their way into the sport, not a ton of success, not a ton of longevity. How much support does, and I'm going to say her name wrong, I promise you, Catherine Legge, how much support does she have from her team now? And how well does she need to perform at Phoenix to become maybe a full-time driver?
She has a lot of support right now, and it's very exciting. Now, first time since Danica Patrick, a woman will be getting into a NASCAR Cup Series car in the race, and so this is going to be interesting. See, she has raced a lot in her own right, and so now getting into the Cup Series level, it'll be interesting to see what she does, but she's got a great team with BJ McLeod, that Live Fast Motorsports on Sunday.
Shane, Sunday is the fourth race of the season, starting with the Daytona 500. If we talk about bugaboos, what would you say the bugaboo has been for NASCAR fans through three races? Mine would be not letting them finish the race at the very end and throwing a caution like we saw a couple of times. What would you say NASCAR fans would say their bugaboo's been through the first 3 weeks?
I would say it's simply been the scheduling of the racetracks themselves. When you start the season with back-to-back super speedways into a road course, a lot of people have just been saying, we'll know what we have after Phoenix this week. The first time in the week 4 that you're actually on a typical intermediate track. Now, that puts certain drivers in a hole. I mean, it's interesting right now when you look at Christopher Bell, who has won 2 out of the 3 races. He's 4th in the standings. The idea isn't that that's just head and shoulders. That you get the points, you win the race. There's just so much at stake through these first couple of weeks. And when you have the crapshoot that is produced by these super speedway races right at the top of the season, it can just make or break the season for a lot of drivers. And so this early in the year, this is now not the first time that Daytona and Atlanta went back-to-back to start the year. They're not the first time we've had this discussion about what is COTA's future on the schedule, road courses. And I think a lot of people are just kind of wondering, is this the best way to start the year with these different types of tracks? And now we're looking at the standings and it's like, is this reflective of the sport right now? And so I think the biggest thing will be next year, whether or not COTA comes back. It probably will, but when is it going to be on the schedule? Are you going to have the nerve to put a road course like that early in the season?
With this amount of passion and energy, it's not surprising, Cole, why Shane Connuck is getting on PRN. You know, that is the big network for NASCAR. He's essentially the Michael Collins of NASCAR. You know, Michael Collins, who covers golf, is so full of energy, and that's why we keep bringing you on, Shane. Look, it only gets mentioned on this show in passing, very rarely. As a matter of fact, we're making a promise to our audience to really only mention it one time a year. But Charlotte FC and MLS just had their opening day last weekend. Can you give me a real pulse and a real sense of how healthy MLS is in Charlotte? Has it kind of peaked? The people who like it are going to like it, and that's about it? Or do you
It's
think
only going
MLS
up.
is still growing?
It's only going up, especially in the Queen City. Charlotte FC began its 4th season, and the past couple of years, it's had the 2nd best attendance in all of Major League Soccer. The only team that's got more than them, Atlanta United. Atlanta drawing 40,000 fans a game to Mercedes-Benz Stadium, while Charlotte, this young team, brings 38,000 to Bank of America Stadium. And that home opener you talked about, Charlotte played Atlanta and got a 2-0 victory. Wilfried Zaha, the Premier League star, comes to Charlotte FC, scores a goal in his Major League Soccer debut. 51,000, and that's on the low end of a Charlotte FC home opener. Normally they're going over pushing 70K. So soccer is growing, especially in the city of Charlotte, and the MLS has a big spot in the Queen City.
Hey, Shane, one of our TOLOs, which stands for Turn On, Leave On, JD, on the text line, wants to ask you a question and says, can we ask Shane his thoughts on Cindric not being suspended but catching a points penalty for right rear hooking Ty Dillon?
That was interesting, and I think what that was NASCAR deciding that was how it was going to go about its news story in the middle of the week. That was just such a moment from the race. It happened. We all saw it, but it was kind of further back. It was like, all right, how are they going to penalize Cindric or not penalize Cindric? And that was what NASCAR decided to do with that one.
JB on the stream cracking a joke. He says Charlotte FC fills Bank of America more than the Panthers do, and he's probably not wrong there. We spent some time yesterday talking about the Carolina Panthers draft and what they're going to do in the first round of that draft, maybe what they should do in the second round as well. In your mind, they've given so much effort recently to building up some offense. I know it's not where they want it to be. Does it feel like they have to go defense? I mean, they certainly need defense, especially at the edge position. But is it a foregone conclusion that they will, no matter what, go defense to help that side of the ball?
I think it feels that way right now. It feels like they brought in enough weapons on offense already that and then in the draft, it looks like they're either way, I have a feeling it's a best available kind of situation with this particular team. They see someone they love. That's who they're going to go with. Either way, like I know, being a fan of the New York Jets, one player is far from what we're changing matters right now.
Yeah, I like that. I like throwing that in there. Shane, on Sunday, the Shriners Children 500 in Arizona and Phoenix. What do for the NASCAR fans out there who are listening and plan to watch on Sunday, what do they anticipate or need to anticipate rather? Short track, is that right? Semi-short?
Yeah, consider it an intermediate track, about a mile and a half. And the whole thing with the way that we've got the championship race on there with the dog leg, fifth turn, as they say, it's a unique track that a lot of people have different feelings about. I do think the spring race has produced just a standard, strong, intermediate track race where you kind of get a sense and you start to see, all right, who are the fastest, which cars are the fastest in the sport, which drivers are the best, because it is an endurance race like that if people compare it to. And it really is a reflection of who is the best racer.
You know, Shane, I've been kind of tracking NASCAR's viewership numbers over the past couple of years, and they had been dropping for a long time. But now it seems like NASCAR numbers are on a rebound, and a lot more people are tuning in and watching again. To what do you attribute that? Is it NASCAR is doing a great job marketing itself? Is it that the rule changes are making races more exciting? Or is it just some sort of a cultural shift among younger viewers that they're tuning in to watch NASCAR for the first time and they're sticking around?
I think NASCAR's continued to do a great job capitalizing on its base, knowing where it has people who every week of the year might know the race is going on and might be inclined to put it on, and bringing the sport back to those tracks more and more. And then starting to make it consistent that it goes to somewhere like Circuit of the Americas in the middle of Austin, Texas, not necessarily in Dallas or in Houston, but in a new market that then has the ability to reach even more markets in the state of Texas, and then brings that race there every year in the beginning beginning of the season like this, it creates something that then again, you put that on Big Fox, the way they had the first 3 races there. They'll have the rest of them on FS1 or the next 7 on FS1 before we get into Amazon Prime Video taking it over with the Coca-Cola 600. And so that is NASCAR starting to figure out where to broadcast these races and maximize that viewership, whether it's putting it on at a certain time they think works. Something I noticed was last year, there was this ARCA race at Daytona. ARCA being the series below, like technically below the truck series, not as much of the regulars at all. And then that race was ending at 2 a.m. It was on FS2. It was like, who was watching this? But on social media, everyone's watching it in the NASCAR world. And then that ended up being on Big Fox in the middle of the afternoon this year, presumably getting higher viewership numbers because they realize where they have the viewers and they figure out how to maximize it.
Shane, what's the expectation for when they do transition over to Amazon Prime? Because, you know, the traditional Fox broadcast, that's where NASCAR has been for years and years and years. It's logical for them to be on FS1 as well. But when you move over to a major streaming conglomerate, the way that Amazon Prime is, what's the expectation for how viewership changes? Are they expecting any kind of a drop-off when they switch from basically over-the-air to streaming only?
So with those 5 races that are going to be on Amazon Prime Video, I think they're expecting great viewership numbers because the idea is that they're marketing those 5 races even more. Not to mention that they're going to have the in-season tournament going on with the 5 races that are on TNT Sports after that. But with the Coca-Cola 600 starting it off with Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the booth, it feels like NASCAR has been planning this for a while and is going to have those 5 races on Prime Video stand out even more in the middle of this season.
Shane, last question for you before we let you run. Denny Hamlin was very dominant last season at certain points, obviously, until, the championship comes around. Still unable to get that championship that he's looking for. But as of so far, just still early in the year, only 3 races under the belt, it hadn't seemed like Denny's been as dominant, right? I know one of those obviously was a road course where he's not usually as good, and it favors guys like Shane Van Gisbergen more than it does Denny Hamlin and Joey Logano. But Denny just hadn't won in the first 3. In your mind, is this a lull, or do you think that he's going to be right there in the mix Sunday as well?
I think he's going to be right in the mix. He hasn't gone anywhere yet. Early in the year, like I said, you never know. Even if someone looks to seem like it's a really top car, Denny has still got it. And especially like I was saying, those 2311 cars, as fast as they've been, Tyler Reddick, after winning the regular season championship, seems to be legitimately one of the best in the sport. That, again, meaning who's the guy who owns this car, meaning he'll know how the 11 car's going before he's worried about the 23 and 45. And if the 23 and 45 are figuring out, it's a matter of time before we see the 11 in victory lane.
Shane, you're the best, man. We appreciate you. Have fun covering the basketball game, Lancaster, you said, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Appreciate you
Have
guys.
fun, man.
Talk real
Appreciate you.
soon.
Shane Connuck, the best down in Florence. As I guess Lancaster, I looked on the map, is like as close to North Carolina Diesel as you can get without being in Charlotte. It's the last town in South Carolina. So I guess their coverage area at the Observer bleeds down in South Carolina a little bit.
Yeah, it's kind of right there on the edge, and certainly worthwhile for them to come down and cover that. When we come back, Cole, on the other side of the break,
little South Carolina baseball, Clemson baseball look ahead this weekend. What do both clubs anticipate this weekend? South Carolina needing a good weekend. South Carolina needing a big weekend, Diesel. Morehead State in town, and Matthew Becker, Jake McCoy, and Dylan Askew. That is your three-man rotation. It's interesting that they're keeping Dylan Askew on Sunday. Not sure how long he'll stay there. They were expected, Dylan was expected to be the Friday guy, but obviously a little back injury a couple of weeks ago, so now they have him on the Sunday rotation. So the Gamecocks, Morehead State, Clemson starting here, Diesel, in 12 minutes against Davidson College. Starting lineup announced just a little bit ago for the Tigers: Listy, Purify, Canarella, Gaffney, Priest, Pano, Jarrell, Becerra, and Chufo. And it is Aiden Connuck on the mound for the Clemson Tigers. Both important series, Diesel. However, we're at the point in college baseball now where you're just on the edge of non-conference, needing to finish strong because conference play around the corner.
Yeah, and I think this is key for South Carolina because they've got to get consistency across this lineup. You got a couple of guys who are making good contact, and when they're playing lesser opponents, they're putting up runs, but they need to really spend some time building up some confidence on this lineup up and down so they can get guys on base. You know, not only we saw it in the series against Clemson, we didn't see them taking a whole lot of walks. They really didn't seem like they were seeing the ball very well, especially in that game too. So it's time for them to start figuring out ways to manufacture guys on base, whether that's crowding the plate a little bit, maybe taking a hit to get on base, whatever it is. You got to build that thing up, and eventually it becomes, contagious, and you're able to kind of catch fire on other parts of the lineup that they haven't done so far.
Yeah, and the problem is, like what we saw last week was South Carolina baseball against Clemson in that 3-game series. I know Gamecock fans may not want to hear this, but that was a sign of things to come. I just ultimately don't think, and I know it's still early, I don't think South Carolina baseball this year is going to be particularly good. That's really the only way I can say it. There are so many holes in the lineup, a couple of injuries they're dealing with right now. Kennedy Jones was taking BP yesterday, so he seems to be okay, but LaCroix obviously banged up. Diesel, to your point, not getting base runners on in the way they need to, and then when they do, like you saw last weekend against Clemson, leaving way too many on. And my worry is once you get into conference play for South Carolina, they're going to be playing a top 15, top 25 team week in and week out. They open with Oklahoma. They have Arkansas. Then they're talking about Tennessee, Mississippi State, A&M, Ole Miss. So the gauntlet's going to get real quick for the Gamecocks. And, again, I just don't think going into conference play, I don't think South Carolina baseball fans need to have high expectations. Sorry to be Debbie Downer, because in my mind, in my opinion, if you have high expectations this year, you're going to be let down.
Yeah, you're going to need some patience at the beginning of this season, especially once we get into conference play. Oklahoma 11-0 right now, sitting at 13th in the country. Arkansas 10-1, number 3 in the country. Both of those teams are up from their previous ranks, so they're playing good baseball right now. It feels weird to say this, Cole, but as a South Carolina fan, you may need to be just hoping for winning one game out of the series. Avoid the sweep. Maybe needs to be the mantra for these fans. Maybe you can steal two and you feel good about yourselves, but it's going to take a little time to get this thing going.
JD says you're right, Cole. On the text line, we will win only between 10 to 12 SEC games if we're lucky, but that's my projection. Texter from the 923 says same thing. I don't know what that means. Texter says, "Come on, Avery, learn your South Carolina geography." And see, I knew I was going to get that.
Should have put your real name out there.
Put my first name is. I laughed last night because I went over to Bon Secure to get my media credential, and they said your name, and I said Cole Bryson, and couldn't find it, and I said, oh crap! I bet I put my first name, which is Avery, on there. Story of my life, growing up through school, right? If you go by your middle name, it's painful. And they said, we don't see it, Cole. There's Avery on here. I said, oh yeah, that's me. And I just
Did
don't
they say
know about,
prove it? Oh yeah, you see your name on the list.
Well,
sure
they
you
do ask for your driver's license.
I guess it's time for me to reveal, Cole, that my actual real name is Batman. So
I knew
if those
that
of you
all
want
along.
to start, if you want to start calling me Batman, I guess that would be.
I knew that all
okay.
along. That's a lot better than some things people
I'm
call
not
you.
saying I am Batman. I'm just saying my name is
Right.
Batman. When we come back, Cole, what industries are you ready for AI to finally take over? Like it's time. It's time to go ahead and let it happen. There's 2 industries, Cole, that I think, yeah, I'm here. Let's do it. That conversation next, right here on 97.7 FM in Greenville, 97.1 FM in Spartanburg, and all over the world on the free Odyssey app. I am of the generation, Cole, that grew up on the Terminator movies, back when the Terminator movies were good. After T2, they went downhill hard. Like, you watch Terminator, you watch Terminator 2, you don't need to watch the rest of the franchise. It turned to crap after that. But because of that, maybe probably irrationally, I have a lot of skepticism when it comes to machines and AI taking over elements of our everyday lives. I don't want to leave some things in the hands of the robots, because what happens when the day they become sentient and they decide, I don't want to comply?
I'll be back.
But, Cole, there are some things, some elements, some industries that I'm very much prepared to take a chance on and think, okay, maybe it's about time we start letting AI and machines handle these things for us so that we can all get about our lives and pursue bigger and better things. We got robo-umps coming to sports. Well, it's really automated balls and strikes. They're not really robo-umps. It's not like you're going to see,
Little R2-D2.
Yeah, you're not going to see C-3PO standing back there behind home plate calling guys out. There's still going to be a dude in a long suit coat with giant pads underneath it, looking like Herman Munster back there. He still has a job, but at least he won't be calling balls and strikes anymore. We got Hawkeye coming to the NFL, so now whoever's job it is to determine where the ball is, when it went out of bounds, etc., that's all going to be handled by AI. We're going to know. The computers are going to tell us when the ball was caught. The computers are going to tell us where the ball was when the runner's knee went down.
Yeah.
But, Cole, it's coming for us quickly. AI is taking over the fast food industry, and I guarantee you, while this one restaurant is already doing it, they're finding ways to start implementing it. It's going to get bigger and bigger. It's going to take over. And eventually, Cole, you're going to go into a McDonald's restaurant and never see an actual person working behind the counter. And I am freaking ready for it. Let's go. I have not eaten at a McDonald's in years because they always screw the order up every single time. You either give me the wrong food, you don't make it the way I asked for it, you leave something out, you give me someone else's order, or that stupid McFlurry machine doesn't work.
The Tolo takeover, when I ran it about the Bojangles AI,
Yeah.
it's prevalent. It is
Yeah.
prevalent, and
But here's how McDonald's is going to do it, Cole. McDonald's is implementing AI in all 43,000 restaurants in America. So it's coming. There ain't no like, we're going to do a little test program down here in Lancaster, South Carolina, and see how it goes. No, it's coming, Cole, with the goal to cut wait times and make a better experience for customers and employees. AI is going to make your meal for you, and the only thing that the people who work there are going to do is unload the damn trucks. And I am ready for it because, again, how can they screw it up so badly? People realize, people working in a McDonald's have got to know that their jobs are on the line, and they are this close to being replaced by machines. Yet they don't give a rip. They're not making it their duty to make sure your order is right.
yeah, I'm with you. So I will say there's a buddy of mine who just the other night was laughing because my goal when I go to Bojangles is to break the AI. My goal is to have to force the AI to give me a real person. Now, it's happened. The other night, this was just within the last 4 or 5 days, I was on the phone with a friend of mine, and I go through the Bojangles drive-thru, and he starts laughing because he knows what's coming, and he knows that the AI's there and that I'm going to have to deal with it, and I don't like it, and he knows. So I don't know if you know this or not, but on iPhones now you can, while you're on the phone with someone, you can hit the button in the top left corner and record the call. So I was pulling in the Bojangles drive-thru, and I hear, this call is being recorded. And I just started laughing because I knew why he was recording the call, and maybe I can get a hold of it and play it over the air because it's quite funny. But my goal was to, and is every time, to ask so many questions that the AI then turns me over to a real person, and it worked. I don't remember exactly what it was that I was asking for. I think I was having them describe a certain product in a way that the AI couldn't do it. I will say, though, the AI did a pretty good job of describing it, but eventually I got a real person.
So your idea of fast food now is intentionally wasting time so that you still get your order right. You still get your food.
But it's the principle. They need to know that the AI is dumb and it's stupid.
Well, okay, so we have a Tolo here, Greenville Gamecock, who's texting in right now. He says, in the restaurants, it's automation, and that's what I do for a living. Greenville Gamecock, you are uniquely qualified maybe to shed some light on what's going on here. McDonald's says their upgrades will start with internet-connected kitchen equipment, AI-enabled drive-thrus, and AI-powered tools for managers to help make sure that orders are accurate and so restaurants can predict equipment issues before they shut down. Even though, Cole, you and I both know, even with all of this technology, the McFlurry machine still is not going to work because nobody wants to clean the damn thing at the end of the day. Yep. So here's what Brian Rice, the McDonald's chief information officer, said regarding the employees. They say our restaurants can be very stressful. Honestly, how stressful is it to deep fry some French fries? We have customers at the counter. We have customers at our drive-thru, couriers coming in for deliveries at the curbside. That's a lot to deal with for our crew. So technology solutions will alleviate the stress. Good. Take the stressful thing out of the people's hands because machines don't get stressed out. They may need a little greased up every now and again, but the machines don't get stressed out. They can just keep on pumping out French fries, batch after batch after batch, and it's going to be better. McDonald's with AI is going to be better because McDonald's basically sucks right now.
Rick and Greer, we lost you, man. If you want to call back in, you can. We'll get to you, I promise. What happens when the electrical components of the AI go out during a rush hour?
If electrical components go out, you're not going to be able to get food cooked by a human being either.
No, I'm saying the electrical components in the robot.
Well, that's what it says right here. Their goal is to be able to, where does it say it? They'll be able to predict equipment issues before they shut down. So we're not going to have the ice cream machine broken. We're not going to have the Coke machine not spitting out Coke. We're not going to have any of that stuff. It's gonna be paradise.
I hope you're right. Chris Arnett on the text line says even AI will forget my dipping sauce. Rick and Greer wants to chime in on the phone lines, which you can do at 844-326-3663. Rick, what do you have to say about this?
Okay, let me finalize everything. I know for a fact that McDonald's, Hardee's, and Burger King get their employees from Kohl's, from Walmart. The people that aren't hired at Walmart they give them a list of those employees, and
Kohl's.
they get them.
Not Kohl's.
Kohl's.
Firings.
So I know for a fact they couldn't make those three places. The people couldn't make it at Walmart. So what do you think you're going to get?
Rick, how long did you work at McDonald's for?
Oh man.
I never worked at McDonald's, but I did work at Walmart.
Rick kept his job.
He wasn't a call.
He was a model employee.
Rick's a good Tolo. So, I mean, are you okay with this?
I was a greeter. I said, get your crap and get out. That's what I told them every time they come in.
Hey, Rick, real quick before you run, I had a message on Facebooks from someone that I'm friends with, and I want to let a Tolo explain because Diesel and I say it a lot, and sometimes people don't hear it. It's okay. A texter, or a friend of mine, Rick, asked at 3:24 today, what is a Tolo? For somebody new to the show, can Rick explain what a Tolo is?
Well, I hadn't figured it out either.
Oh, my gosh.
I know TOE is toe, but you turn it on, leave it on.
There you go.
Thank you, Rick.
Rick,
you got it. He's a smart guy. That's why he kept his job as a greeter.
That's right. He wasn't
he's a smart guy. No, Rick's not. I mean, I don't know about the whole people who get fired from Walmart go work at McDonald's. I'm not saying he's lying, but do you really want those rejects making your burger?
Look,
Those rejects are the reason why it's undercooked, why the pickles are on there when you ask for no pickles, or vice versa.
I don't eat.
I want the machines to do it right.
Yeah, I hadn't had as many problems as you have had at fast food. I don't know if I've just gotten lucky or Boiling Springs has good.
I only
workers,
want one employee at my McDonald's, and that's like a PhD rocket scientist who runs the whole thing.
Elon.
Yeah,
you want Elon running the robots?
If he can run it, I mean, I don't know. He finally just now figured out how to put a rocket on a moon. Do we really think he's qualified to run a McDonald's? But no, I mean, I think as much as they screw orders up, Cole, I think it's about time that they did it.
I don't have a problem with it. I guess it's part of where we're going, right?
Yeah.
It's part of life.
Well,
I have to order through AI at Bojangles.
Not only are we going that way with McDonald's, we're also going that way with Ubers now. And Arch Manning, see, this is how we bring all this back to sports.
Oh, I've
Arch
seen
Manning,
this, yeah.
who hasn't even played a game as a starter at Texas. I mean, maybe he started one of those games where Quinn, but like as a legitimate starter, okay? He has, I guess, got an endorsement going with a new company called Waymo. And what Waymo does is they have driverless Ubers.
Yeah.
They come pick you up. So he had a video. Is a fantastic ad of Arch Cooper and Archie Manning in a Waymo driving Arch to class. And here's what that sounded like.
Dad, what do you think the name of this driver is? I don't see a driver. Arch, do you Uber to class? Because I noticed you get a lot of parking tickets. You must be driving somewhere.
Tickets are brutal around campus, so I think Uber is the way to go.
I've just spent a couple bucks, but he drives a lot better than Arch did last night coming from the airport. That was the
I
worst.
missed like 3 turns.
How does Waymo know we're at a red light?
Yeah, I thought you told it.
Dad, did you have a computer in college? I did not. Yeah.
Did you have a cell phone?
Of course not.
How old were you when you got a cell phone?
Probably 65.
God.
So the Waymo goes and drops Arch off at his class, Cole.
Yeah.
But this is another form of AI moving its way into society. They're all sitting in the back seat of the car. There's no one there. Now the car, besides the fact that it looks cramped because you got 3 large fellas. I mean, Arch is a big dude.
In the back seat.
Archie was a big dude. Cooper, also, but he didn't play football at a high level. They're all crammed into the back seat, but the car on the outside, Cole, is like loaded down with like special sensors and cameras all over the place. And there is nobody in the driver's seat or even in the front seat at all. Would you feel safe getting into a driverless car in the back seat?
No, I would. I'll tell you why. I think it's
Really?
probably a lot better than some of the Uber drivers. I Ubered last week. My car is in the shop. Shout out to Wesley in Spartanburg at Dixie. It's in the shop, and I Ubered last week somewhere. I think it was from here to Spartanburg, and the Uber driver, she was horrible, number one. She was on FaceTime with her niece or somebody, like, while she's Ubering me. It was hot as, can I say as ball? It was hot AF. It was hot. She was on FaceTime. It was just a bad experience.
You could have asked to be let out of the car.
But
You didn't have to stay in her Uber.
I know, but I didn't want to have to go through all that. I just stayed in.
Uber, used to be like a pretty high level driver.
Yeah.
That was their employee base. Now it's kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel. It's the people who get fired from Walmart who have to go work at McDonald's. They get fired from McDonald's, so they start Ubering.
Let's look at the text line. Texter says, "Oh no, work is hard. Went from bartender to ISO rep for large research and development turbine industry. The stress paves character and proves ability." The texter from the 907 says the cost of food better go down if they're not paying for employees.
Well, they're investing a lot of money in this AI, so the cost is going to go up.
Well, the cost of food, texter, really doesn't factor in the employees anyway. Believe it or not. Most restaurants, it doesn't.
They have a set amount they're going to pay their employees.
Yeah.
And if they raise the prices, they're not going to give it to the employees. The company gets that money.
Greenville Gamecock, who you mentioned, says, I do not install machines in the restaurants, but I just work in the industry in general.
Okay.
As a machine builder, would love to see the automated fast food besides Chick-fil-A. You're right. Chick-fil-A don't need it. They're already AI.
They're perfect.
Right? They're perfect.
They're
Most of
perfect.
the time.
They got machines working in there, and by machines I mean people who don't make mistakes, who don't get tired.
They're fast.
So Cole, like I'm ready for AI when it comes to McDonald's because that's like low level, day-to-day experience. Going and getting a cheap hamburger for lunch, although it's not so cheap anymore. I'm terrified of Waymos. I don't want to be in a Waymo because I like to be in control of the vehicle. Like I want to be able to, if I know that I have no control over an accident that's coming my way, like if I see a car that's just about to T-bone me, I could potentially swerve out of the way. If I'm in a Waymo, I can't do that.
No, that's true. I want to ride in one. Are they here yet?
I don't know.
I'm looking now.
I don't know. I mean, the only thing I could think of, Cole, is the scene from the movie Demolition Man where he's in a self-driving car that won't give him back permission to drive the car.
Self-drive.
Unable to execute.
Self-drive now.
Malfunction. Unable to execute. Self-driving engaged.
Rick! Right now, you Mickey Mouse!
And then he crashes into a fountain.
So here's the current cities that Waymo is in: Phoenix, San Francisco, Los Angeles, Austin, and that's it. Now, coming soon, Atlanta, Miami, and that's it. So unless you live in one of the top 4 or 5 biggest cities in the country, they're not coming to Cowpens.
And what scares me about Waymos, Cole, is gangs are going to learn exactly what stops a car because they know that you're like sitting ducks in the car. They know that you can't do anything about it. Like the programming will be if this Waymo gets in an accident, the Waymo pulls over and then they've got you. And there's nothing you can do about it. So until they start like electrifying the outsides of the car to protect me, I don't want to be in one.
Hurricane Jeff texts in and says, before I worked at the Postal Service, I spent 3 years working simultaneously at McDonald's, Domino's, and I can 100% honestly tell you I never had a refire at McDonald's, nor did my food ever come back when it came down to annual inspections. I had a perfect score. And there are some out there. Like every now and then I'll go through the drive-thru and it's like a perfect experience. There are good, outstanding people in the upstate, even Tolos, who work fast food. It's okay.
Yeah.
We're not, demeaning them. But some though, aren't any good.
That means you've got good management at that store that only hires the right people to work at that store. I've been to a restaurant, the same one that you go to that you try to confuse the AI.
Yeah. Well,
where the lights were on, employees were inside. You pull up to the window or pull up to the order box, no one answers. There's no one there. Hello? Is anyone there? Is anyone there? We pull up to the window. Hey, you guys are here. They were ducking down behind the counters.
Where do you live?
Malden.
The streets of Atlanta? I mean,
yeah, they're ducking down behind the counters so that customers who are pulling up to the drive-thru don't see them. And then finally somebody walks up to the window, opens it up like an inch, and just goes, we closed. We closed. Wait a minute. It's like 3 p.m. on like a Saturday. You're not closed. Like, no, we closed. Like the employees just unilaterally decided, we're not working today. We're shutting the restaurant down.
Some employees do that. They think they have power and they do things without, permission.
Here's what I think, though, Cole. I don't think AI is actually driving your car. I think it's actually some like Indian dude in a remote like call center in New Delhi.
That's
he's got a remote control and he's driving your car for you. I think that's what's happening.
Zach Breeze on the text line says Chick-fil-A's garbage. Zach, what are we doing here? Are you American, Zach? I mean, I love you.
Is it the tastiest thing in the world? No.
Yes, it is.
No,
so
it's not.
Good.
Now, if you get spicy, it is.
So
it's the tastiest thing.
It's so good.
It's otherwise it's fairly plain. But Chick-fil-A gets it right every single time.
Yeah. I can't believe you said it's plain.
It is plain. Outside of the spicy sandwiches. The spicy sandwiches are great.
So good.
Can we get spicy nugs, Chick-fil-A, please?
They don't have
spicy
them yet?
nugs. No.
I do like the spicy. They're really good breakfast, though. Really good breakfast, Zach. It's okay. Everybody has a different opinion. Final score here in Greenville. We now know who the Gamecocks will be playing. Oklahoma defeats Kentucky 69-65. Diesel, the Gamecocks tomorrow at 4:30 will take on the Sooners, who are 25-6. 11
It'll be a tough fight.
Yeah, it will be. Look, Carolina has the talent, to win every game, but obviously they're young in a lot of areas. So that'll be interesting. Let's see what they did against Oklahoma earlier in the year in SEC play. Oklahoma. Oh, boy.
Close? Butt whooping?
The final score was 101-60.
Oh. I mean, 60 is about their average output, right?
Oh, my
Oklahoma
God.
scored 69 points in this game.
Diesel, they gave up 101 points to South Carolina on January the 19th. When you talk about losing by 41 points, and now you're in the semifinals, that's going to be tough. I obviously don't think it'll be a 41-point win, right? Oklahoma seems like they're playing a little bit better basketball, but I don't know, Diesel. You and I have watched this game. It's been on this TV screen, and I don't know that they can hang with the Gamecocks. So.
What's the worst thing that an AI burger flipper can do? Just give me a frozen patty. That's the worst thing it could do. An AI self-driving car could crash me into a river.
Yeah,
and then I'm stuck and I can't get out. So yes to the McDonald's, no to the Waymos.
At least you wouldn't have a frozen patty. I think a frozen patty would be worse than crashing into the river, though. I mean, think about it.
I might taste better.
Biting into a biting into a frozen patty. Tolo's a loaded show still coming your way, so you better do what Rick said and turn it on, leave it on. That's what Tolo is. We normally do a weekend menu, look around at what's going on in the world of sports this weekend at 5. But Smitty from Sports Talk SC will join us at 5 o'clock on the dot to talk a little South Carolina, Clemson. He covers the in-state schools, and I got to sit beside him today on Media Row in Greenville, so I asked him, I said, hey, how about coming on with us at 5 o'clock? So make sure you turn it on and leave it on for that. But we take a look at what's happening this weekend in sports. Tolos, what are you watching this weekend? That's next. is happening in the sports world this weekend, Tolos, that has your interest? Basically, I'm asking what you're watching sports-related this weekend. Diesel, yesterday we asked the Tolos what they were watching non-sports related. Had a really good interaction on TV shows, and I forgot to write some of them down, but I need to go back on the text line and grab those. But when it comes to sports, Tolos, what has your interest this weekend? Because tonight, Friday night, you'll be spending your Friday night doing something. Saturday, I know we're to the point now where we're close. We're not there yet, but we're close to spring and gardening, right? And getting some plants, and 800 million people and their moms going to Lowe's and, rushing the nice outdoor section at Lowe's. But tomorrow is supposed to be 74. It's going to be nice. Now, a little cooler on Sunday, but when it comes to sports, Tolos, what's on the docket for you this weekend? College basketball, Diesel, winding down from the men's side. Obviously, women are in their conference tournaments, but men's college basketball, tomorrow's like the last big day. And then tonight, you have only 2 top 25 matchups, Purdue and Illinois, South Florida, Memphis. But then tomorrow, we haven't even mentioned this week. How many people are interested on the 8th day of March, 2025? How many people are interested in Duke, North Carolina tomorrow night? Any?
Well, I mean, this could push North Carolina out of contention. They are sitting, depending on which bracketology you look at the last 4 in. So could a big blowout loss against Duke push them off the bubble? Maybe. I wish it would, because they don't deserve to get in. North Carolina doesn't deserve to get in. This certainly could knock Duke off the 1 line. Probably won't if they lose this game. I saw somewhere, Cole, that a large percentage of teams, not a small percentage of teams who have been a 1 seed in the tournament have lost a game, not a tournament game, but a regular season game in the month of March. So it does happen that really good teams lose down the stretch, and it does not knock them off the 1 seed. So it's possible, unlikely, but this is one of those rivalries that it's worth celebrating and worth realizing what it means, even if North Carolina is not elite this year.
On the YouTube stream, Luke says Duke is blowing North Carolina out of the water, no question, not going to be a game. Diesel, without looking at the point spread, Duke is favored by how many tomorrow? Best guess.
Duke is the home team or the away team?
Duke is the away team tomorrow. In
Duke
Chapel
is the
Hill.
away team. Duke at North Carolina. I'm saying the spread for this game is set at 15.5.
Not far off. It's a little closer than you and I may have thought. Yeah, 10.5 points. 10.5 points is what Duke is favored by. So we'll see. We'll see if they can keep it within 10. I don't know that they do, but look, it's a rivalry game, right? You never know what can happen. But really the last big weekend before March Madness, obviously the men's side, Diesel, will begin tournament play next week, and Clemson will be in Charlotte, I believe. Is that right? And South Carolina, the SEC is in Nashville. So
it's time to send it back to Greensboro permanently where it belongs. The ACC tournament belongs in Greensboro.
It was there for a long time. Tomorrow you have St. John's Marquette, a top 25 matchup. You know what's really interesting? We haven't talked a lot about St. John's in 2024, 2025. But, regardless of what you think of the guy, Rick Pitino's done a tremendous job. They're 26-4, 17-2 in the Big East, and they're number 6 in the country, Diesel.
Yeah.
I think it's time, in my mind, in my opinion, that we have the conversation that St. John's is a potential Elite 8 team. Who knows? Who knows if they can go further than that? But Pitino's everybody that knows college basketball knows that Rick Pitino's one of the best coaches in the game. Obviously had some dirt from his past. But, man, he's got St. John's playing really good. They're actually underdogs tomorrow. Marquette's favored by 1.5.
That's interesting. And Rick, did his crimes, and he did his time. He left to go coach in Greece for a while. He came back, took the job at Iona, He only won 75% of his games while he was there, taking a tiny school in Iona. Look, I mean, you would love to say, yeah, we're Iona. We hired Rick Pitino. We're going to have him for, for 10 years, and he's going to take us and elevate our program to heights that it's never been to. But Rick Pitino is going to leave you, and St. John's probably knows that Rick Pitino is going to leave him in a couple of years and head back to a power job if he wants it. I don't know if he wants that or not. But he's been elite everywhere he's gone.
Yes.
Man. He won 81% of his games while at Kentucky. He won 74% of his games while at Louisville, 74% at Iona, 73% of his games at St. John's. He is just elite everywhere he goes. The only place that he did struggle at, Cole, was way back in the day when he coached one season at Hawaii. He went 2-4.
That's scary.
For a .333 win percentage. If I'm Rick Pitino, I might be heading back to Hawaii just so that I can get that ugly thing off of my resume.
Yeah, no kidding. Also, tomorrow, by the way, Rick Pitino, when he wears the white suit, I mean, I don't know that there's anything better in college basketball.
And I love that he spent so much of his career in the Northeast, in the Big East.
He's a heck of a coach. So, look, I think as the tournament gets here in a couple of weeks, I think St. John's is a team that you want to keep your eye on. I mean, I think they're going to make a run. It's hard to bet against that guy. Also, tomorrow in the top 25, Kentucky, Missouri, 19, Kentucky versus 15, Missouri Diesel at 12 noon on ESPN. Missouri is favored by 4.5. The number 25 ranked Bulldogs of Mississippi State, who are 8-9 in the conference. Think about that. You have a losing conference record, yet you're 25 in the country. You're in the top 25. That is wild to me.
A lot of respect given to the resume. I think that's a ranking based on your resume, not so much your body of work.
Who you play? Arkansas this weekend. Penn State taking on number 12, Wisconsin tomorrow at 1 o'clock. Top 25, Iowa State, number 10, taking on Kansas State. South Carolina, the Gamecocks finish their regular season on the road in Knoxville, Tennessee. Ooh. Again, guess without looking, Tennessee is favored by
12.5.
15.5. Not far off. So 15.5 point favorites are look at that TV right there. That just real quick, I didn't know I wanted to see that. Anyways, sorry, I get distracted.
Are we mid game over there?
No. What? Who?
Yeah.
Steve?
Sorry.
What? Sorry. Need to change the channel because that's distracting. South Carolina, Tennessee tomorrow at 2 o'clock. Tennessee, a big favorite. We'll see how Lamont Paris and those guys end the season. Stanford and Louisville tomorrow. Louisville, number 14 in the country. And then not only do you have North Carolina Diesel versus Duke tomorrow, you also have Alabama Auburn. And what if I told you, welcome to the year 2025, where Alabama-Auburn's a better rivalry on the hardwood than it is on the football field. Who would have thunk that, right? In Auburn tomorrow, number 7 versus number 1. Auburn favored by 8.5 points. That one's probably, Diesel, the biggest game of the day.
Yeah, but Alabama, this is going to be an absolutely insane environment, but Alabama has lost 4 of their last 6. They lost to Auburn and Missouri, 1 against Kentucky and Mississippi State, and then they've lost 2 straight against Tennessee and Florida. What's going on there at Alabama? That's what I want to know.
Nate Oates is a good coach, but I do think Auburn's the way better team. Look, it's going to be close. It's a rivalry. Do you have their schedule put up still? I wonder what that score the first time, Auburn-Alabama, was it 10 points?
That was a 94-85 game, so a 9-point game.
9-point game. I thought it was
Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, I was thinking it was right in there around 10. So that one tomorrow at 2:30. Northwestern at 3 o'clock taking on number 13 Maryland. 4 o'clock Texas A&M versus LSU. 4:30 number 24 Arizona taking on Kansas. Kansas has been this year, but Kansas is favored over Arizona. Number 5 Florida Gators are hosting Ole Miss tomorrow. Florida favored by 11.5 points. Clemson Diesel finishing off their regular season tomorrow night. Mike Young, the former Wofford longtime head coach, making his return to the state of South Carolina, and will be in Clemson tomorrow night as Clemson is hosting Virginia Tech. Don't look, one more time, Clemson favored by
9.5.
18 and a half.
18 and a half. Is Virginia Tech that bad?
8-11 in conference.
That's not good.
So, yeah.
In a bad conference,
13-7.
that's really bad.
And what's weird is, Mike Young, his first season, they won the ACC.
Yeah.
The first year.
The ACC's got to find a way to invest big time in coaching. I mean, I don't know if they've got to go poach the top coach in every conference. I mean, outside of the SEC and the Big Ten, because they're not getting those guys to come in and fix this thing. Because
you know what I think?
It's terrible.
I want Rick Pitino back in the ACC. I think Rick Pitino is so good for the ACC. I mean,
Rick Pitino at Syracuse wouldn't be great.
Be better than what they have now.
Rick Pitino at Boston College wouldn't be great. I mean, he could stay right there where he's comfortable, where he's been for a long time.
Where is St. John's at?
St. John's is in New York.
Oh, so he wouldn't even have to
Iona
leave
was in New York.
He wouldn't even have to leave the state.
No, probably wouldn't even have to change his address.
Syracuse would be interesting. Syracuse would be very interesting.
Because college basketball is better when Syracuse is good.
It is. And Rick Pitino, he needs to be in a I don't want to say St. John's isn't big enough. It's not a big time enough job, but it needs to be in the ACC. Maybe that's what we need. Coach K left. We need Rick Pitino.
Maybe it's that we here in the South don't understand how huge Big East basketball is to people who live and grew up watching Big East basketball. To us, it's a mid-major conference. And it's like, okay, cool, mid-major. You're going to get one, maybe two teams in. I know it's a much bigger deal to them. I mean, yesterday we had on Adam Zagoria from Zag's blog.
Yeah.
And he's like, look, guys, I know you didn't bring it up, but let's talk about the Big East. It's just, I think around here we don't even consider to bring it up.
Yeah. Also tomorrow, number 9, Texas Tech taking on Arizona State. Number 3, Houston taking on Baylor. And then last, number 23, BYU taking on Utah. In the NBA, rather, last night there was a really good one. That's why I'm kind of dragging tired today, Diesel. Lakers-Knicks didn't start till 10:30. Then it goes into overtime. 113-109. The Lakers won.
Finished at 7 a.m. this morning.
I think it was 7 a.m. Cleveland, who is one of the best teams in the East, is in town tonight. I guess Charlotte. Can we say that?
Want to go see one good team play?
You can see one good team. Donovan Mitchell. Remember when Utah said he wasn't any good? Let go of him. Memphis, Dallas tonight. Obviously, that would be a lot better if their players were there. The Suns, Nuggets tonight will be a good game, but not a ton. Also, you have the race that we talked about with Shane Connuck. Is the Phoenix Open this week as well? I saw something.
Phoenix Open golf, you mean?
Yeah, I think it's not time for the waste management already, is it? I can't remember, but I saw something online, Diesel, where
they are at the Grand Reserve Golf Club.
Okay.
The Puerto Rico Open this
Puerto
weekend.
Rico Open. Maybe
Puerto Rico, as they say.
Rico. And is that where Wesley Roberts? That's where Wesley Roberts lives, most of the time. So
next, let's see. So the Puerto Rico. I feel weird saying it wrong. The Puerto Rico Open is this weekend. With a $4 million purse, and the Arnold Palmer Invitational is going on this weekend as well
in Orlando, right?
At Bay Hill Golf Course with a $20 million purse.
Scotty, excuse me. I keep having something in my throat today. Scotty Scheffler won that last year, I believe. And then, look, we're getting close. We're getting close, Diesel. The Players' Championship, Sawgrass is next weekend.
Yeah.
And then you look ahead, man, you realize, we're
Masters is on the way, man.
April 10th.
Get ready. The azaleas are going to start budding. Yeah, all the big golfers are at Bay Hill. Shane Lowry is there, Colin Morikawa, Rory McIlroy, Justin Thomas. They're all there.
And I'll tell you the last thing I'll say before we run to a break. I'm not the biggest golf guy in the world. However, I went to Quail Hollow last year for the Wells Fargo. It wasn't one of the majors, obviously, but I loved it. I got tickets to the PGA Championship that's going to be at Quail Hollow this year. So
wow. The
Quail Hollow, which has hosted majors in the past in Charlotte, is hosting the PGA Championship in May.
Big time.
That is going to be a lot of fun. So I'm excited. I went last year and kind of fell in love with it. It was a lot of fun following certain golfers around. So
now we got to get you out on the course playing. Cole Bryson with a ice cold beer.
I
And
don't
some golf
I don't
clubs.
drink beer or play golf,
Well,
so I've got to
how about
figure
a
this out.
seltzer? Can we get you a seltzer instead? Whatever, man. We just want you out there having a good time, whatever it takes. When we come back, Cole, let's see what else is happening out there in the sports world. We'll do our daily whip around, our daily wires coming up next. much happening in the sports world, Cole. It's hard to get to all of it on the show. That's why we put it in this segment. We call it our Daily Wires. Here's the buzz in the sports world. The Celtics' Derek White, Cole, got hit in the teeth last night and spit a couple chiclets out on the court.
That's gross.
Remember the video we had a few week or so ago about the Oklahoma player that went down, lost a couple of teeth? Well, Derek White apparently has done this multiple times throughout his career. And in the post-game interview, he said, it's okay. The teeth that I spit out were only temporary.
What does that
anyway.
even mean? You're just wearing fake teeth all the time.
Yeah, it's wear a mouth guard, Derek. It's not that hard.
Boston, they don't wear mouth guards in Boston.
They're tough over there.
Tough.
You get ridiculed, and you wouldn't be allowed to show your face in a Dunkin' Donuts if you wore a mouth guard for the Celtics. Speaking of injuries, Joel Embiid ruled out for the rest of the season for the Philadelphia 76ers. He's still dealing with that knee issue. Over to the NFL. Cleveland Brown owners Jimmy Haslam recently declined a request to meet with Myles Garrett amid Garrett's attempts to be traded. He denied the request and then was instead told to go speak with the general manager, Andrew Berry, who oversees football operations.
It doesn't seem like things are trending in a positive direction.
Is that insulting when the owner won't meet with you?
Well, you know what? It's actually what Myles Garrett wants. He wants out. He should be happy. I mean, I don't know. I think if it,
Well, then they're not interested in trading him.
Well,
that's the thing. I think it's like, no, I'm not dealing with you. You're not going anywhere.
I wouldn't show up.
Well, I mean, you're also getting paid a tremendous amount of money to play a game.
Yeah.
And let's always remember that. All of these petulant players that want out, you're being compensated very, very well where you are. Lions linebacker Derek Barnes agreed with the team for a new deal for a 3-year, $25.5 million extension with $16 million fully guaranteed. Back over in the association, Cole, former Mavs majority owner Mark Cuban chimed in on the Luka Doncic deal for the first time, saying, quote, if the Mavs are going to trade Luka, that's one thing. Just get a better deal. No disrespect to Anthony Davis, but I still firmly believe if we had gotten 4 unprotected number ones and Anthony Davis and Max Christie, this would be a different conversation.
And I don't know if the Lakers would have given up that much for Luka. Maybe they would have. I will tell you this, though. I'm not a big Mark Cuban guy, but I will say if Mark Cuban were still running things in Dallas, that trade would not have happened. There's no way that Mark Cuban would have traded away Luka Doncic. It just wouldn't have happened. So I think he's 100% right. They traded him away, Diesel, and got pennies in return. I mean, that, again, Anthony Davis is a great player, ... when he's on the court. ...
On the court.
When he's healthy. He's not. He wasn't on the court a lot in L.A. That's the problem.
Congratulations to Michael Ball from Apex, North Carolina. He was in the arena last night during the Lakers-New York Knicks game, and at halftime, he hit a half-court shot and won $100,000
Wow.
from MGM Rewards. Congratulations to him.
I'll never get that lucky to hit the shot or win the money.
Cole, in a clip originally posted by John Blau from the Post-Courier, the new defensive coordinator, Tom Allen, for the Clemson Tigers, said he watched some of Clemson's 2024 practice film, and he said, what they're doing just isn't it. The effort isn't there. Here's what Tom had to say.
I watched, first couple practices from a year ago, and I was just like, this isn't it. This is not the way this is supposed to be. And so, and we showed them. And I showed the coaches, and we said, this has to change immediately. And so, to me, that's where the energy and the effort and how hard you're going to play. That to me is non-negotiable. So, getting that set, that's the standard, that's the expectation. If a guy doesn't meet it, then he's held accountable for that.
I want to inform you that I did not speed up that audio. That's just how fast Tom Allen talks.
He does,
Yeah.
but I love that.
And-
I mean, Diesel.
Yeah.
For him to walk in there and say to Dabo and the rest, guys, this ain't working. Y'all ain't giving enough effort. I love it. What a great hire.
There's more to that audio, but not all of it applies to what's going on here with this topic. And lastly, Cole, a sad little bit of news. This one comes out of Georgia Southern University. They lost a student athlete who had just joined the football program. Tay McGibbons passed away at the age of 18 after battling cancer. They thought and hoped that Tay could end up being a good player for them. And unfortunately, he lost his battle.
Man.
So obviously, our thoughts are going out to the Georgia Southern community. I know we have a couple of Georgia Southern alums who are in our listening audience. I don't know if they know, but there is a GoFundMe to help cover Tay's funeral expenses.
That's horrible. Yeah. Absolutely horrible to hear. Good to hear from Scotty from BMW on the YouTube stream. He says, Cole, you're looking spiffy today. Well, I went to the South Carolina game. And, you know, you have to win the Best Dressed award if you're going to go do that. Also, shout out to Clemson Baseball SID, who's awesome, helps us out a lot. And Brian Hennessy is his name. If you don't know, Will Vandervoort of the Clemson Insider tweeted out a cool video earlier today. And Brian Hennessy congratulated his 1400 baseball game today. Clemson taking on Davidson. So congratulations to Brian Hennessy. That is a lot of baseball games. 1,400 baseball games. I don't even know if I count that high. Diesel, we're going to run. And on the other side, we'll be joined by our friend of the show that we had on every Friday during football season. And it's time to bring him on again today. A little Clemson, South Carolina conversation. Smitty, Sports Talk Media Network. That's next. Hour number 3 of the show starting right now, Tolo. So you need to do what you've already done and turn it on and leave it on the Fan Upstate 97.1 FM in Spartanburg, 97.7 FM in Greenville. If you have a question for our next guest, you can text in at 844-FAN-PHONE. That's 844-326-3663. He thought he was going to get rid of me as he sat beside me at Bon Secure earlier today for South Carolina Vanderbilt. Matt Smith, who we have on every Friday during football season of Sports Talk Media Network, joins us. And Smitty, when I brought you on, you said, hey, let's talk South Carolina, baseball, women's basketball, whatever else you want to talk about. You said you hadn't seen Clemson this year, and then you're throwing shots at me on this 5 o'clock in this 5 o'clock segment about LeBron. I've already taken enough heat from Diesel and the Tolos. What else is there to give?
Well, first of all, I was 7 under through 9 holes on Golden Tee when you called.
Oh,
so I've got a lot. I got a lot on my plate. Second of all, I only give you a hard time about LeBron. I am a Lakers fan, so look, I'm on the LeBron train, but you have that shirtless photo of him up as a screensaver. And that's where I leave you right there, man.
Smitty, great to hear your voice again. It's been a while. So you're playing Golden Tee. Are you a Golden Tee aficionado, or is that something you just decided to pump quarters in for the first time?
Yes, I am not. I'm not a golfer, unfortunately. All my buddies are golf pros. I just have the style. I walk around. Cole, you may have seen me today. I was there at the SEC Women's Championship.
No, I didn't see you,
and
Smitty.
I'm all Southern Tide, polo. I got the gear. I even have one golf glove hanging out of the back of my chinos. But no, I do not usually play, and I'm only taking this moment to play. I said because I'm here in Greenville, so it's like a vacation for me. So I'm playing a little Golden Tee here at. Hold on, let me see where I am. It's called the Noisy Oyster Taqueria and Karaoke Bar. So that's where I am, and I put in a couple of quarters for Golden Tee. By the way, this is great. It takes Confederate money, which is great. I've got some of that as collector, and just playing a little and talking to you guys.
The noisy.
I'm
what did you
jazzed up
say? Noisy oyster, Smitty? Where are we talking about here?
Noisy Oyster Taqueria and Karaoke Bar. That's why you might hear some noise in the background.
In Greenville. Are you sure about that? I'd never heard of that before. And I appreciate the invite to take on downtown Greenville with you.
Yeah, it's real nice. You over there eating tacos while we're in here working.
Yeah, appreciate that.
Oh, I'm sorry. You thought I was – no, I'm not in downtown Greenville. I'm somewhere in – I went the back way to Fountain Inn. No, I'm nowhere you guys have ever been.
Oh. We don't really know where Smitty is. So have to let us know where maybe catch up tomorrow before the South Carolina women get going. I don't know what your Saturday plans are. I know you got some family with you, Smitty. But, hey, South Carolina women, let's start with them. I think this is an interesting point of conversation because Diesel and I started the show by talking South Carolina women's basketball, right? And I told Diesel during that first segment, I said, Diesel, I don't know that 10 to 15 years ago on local sports talk radio that anybody would have led or even spent a whole segment on women's college basketball. Just goes to show how much the game has changed and how good it is right now, especially South Carolina. But coming from somebody, Smitty, that we're sitting here talking to and you that's been in radio and now you're working for Sports Talk SC, you were in radio 10, 15 years ago and even longer. Women's basketball, was that even a thought back then?
No, absolutely not. So what we did not, it did not move the needle. It absolutely was not something that we covered. And even prior to that, I had worked at the Spartanburg Herald-Journal, and just South Carolina women's basketball, Clemson women's basketball did not register with the average sports fan. And what did happen was we would hear this noise coming out of Tennessee and up in Connecticut with UConn, and they would say, look, this is a good game when the best of the women are playing and the energy level is high and the crowd is hyped. And it was hard for us to wrap our heads around, but just as you witnessed today, and I have as well, it gets people going. And there is a big-time fan base for it now. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that women's opportunities have gotten better, and players like Malaysia Fawiley have been playing since they could walk, which means their skill level mimics what we see at the highest level. So it's no longer a lesser game in terms of entertainment. And I'm not here to compare it to the men's game. That's not my point. It's more about the fact that the game has just improved because women's opportunities improved, and you had a lot more dads, taking their daughters to the camps and making sure that they got the same opportunities. And women's basketball is just hype right now. And it's not just South Carolina. South Carolina's at the forefront. They're still the gold standard. But truthfully, you look at it across the board, what's happening at LSU, what's happening, on the televisions, you can see the Big 12 championships, the Big 10 championships. Women's basketball is better, and it's drawing fans. So it's fine if you're not a fan of it, if you're not on board with it. But what can't be denied is now it moves the needle in a way, as you pointed out, that didn't happen 12, 15 years ago. As you said, I was there. We were taking calls. South Carolina women, Clemson women, not a factor. Now all of a sudden, South Carolina women's basketball, a big-time driver of what we do in our industry in terms of writing stories, covering it, and talking about it on the radio.
So, Smitty, we just took a little trip down memory lane. Let's look into the future a little bit here. As more and more girls get into basketball and you got more and more talent to spread out, and eventually as NIL money continues to grow at more institutions, do you see potentially down the road NIL spreading that talent out? Because we mentioned earlier, Dawn Staley has done such an exceptional job stockpiling talent. She takes a starter out of the game. She's putting another starter caliber player in there to replace them, and that's how they end up beating teams in their own conference by 30, 40 points night in and night out. I just wonder how long something like that remains sustainable as the game continues to grow and people decide to put their money into women's basketball and NIL trusts.
We're already seeing it, Diesel, because what you're pointing out is exactly how women's basketball began, because Title IX afforded UConn and Tennessee the opportunity to go out and get the 12th, 13th player on their bench was usually better than the starter of their opponent. And so that's why so many of the scores were 84-44. But Cole can tell you this, South Carolina was in peril today against Vanderbilt. The score doesn't indicate that because the final ended up 84-63, but that's a 5-point game with 5 minutes to play. Vanderbilt has talent. I just watched Oklahoma pull. It's a mild upset, the 5 seed over the 4 seed, but everyone kind of thought this was going to be South Carolina and Kentucky in the semifinals tomorrow, and then Oklahoma pulls an upset over Kentucky. So you're already seeing it, Diesel. You're seeing the talent level spread out. Haley Van Leet went to TCU. She transferred out of LSU to TCU. We're seeing that. We're seeing some of the better players go across the board, different conferences, different teams, not always the superpowers. It used to be the reason that we never did women's basketball March Madness is because there was no madness. You're just going to get 4 number 1 seeds in the Final Four. It's not that way anymore. You're already seeing some upsets, and I predict this year you're going to see some more in the NCAA tournament for the women, and it's because more young ladies are playing basketball growing up, and that means more upsets are going to happen because you can't just stockpile the talent anymore.
So, Smitty, with all that being said, the question that I asked you and the question that Diesel asked you about where it's going to go, is it fair to say, because you just mentioned how, 10, 15 years ago we heard about Tennessee and UConn, but it wasn't here on the scene in South Carolina and in the lower portion of the country quite yet. Is it fair to say Dawn Staley saved women's basketball in the lower part of America?
I don't know about save, but she absolutely changed the landscape. She single-handedly changed the landscape and changed SEC women's basketball. Tennessee was a 9 seed and got beaten in the first round of the conference tournament. This is something that we thought would never happen. We thought that was the Death Star, that Tennessee women's basketball would rule forever. It didn't matter that Pat Summitt was no longer there. And the fact that Dawn Staley has South Carolina, they're vying for their 9th SEC Women's Championship. They're, I think, 5th in the last 6 seasons. It's ridiculous. She's truly put them on the map, and it would take someone like her, and I want to phrase this properly. It's because Dawn is who she is. She was a baller herself.
Yeah.
When I was growing up, a lot of the women's basketball coaches, they were these older women or older men, and they knew the game, but they just didn't seem to connect with the young players. Dawn Staley was a flat-out baller. I knew who she was long before she took the job at South Carolina, and that helps. That means the parents of a lot of these young players also know who she was, and she was a lot like Malaysia Fulwiley. She played with flair. She was an exciting player, so she did change it. I don't know about save it, because I think women's basketball was going to grow no matter what, but I'll tell you, I think she truly supercharged it.
Smitty, when it comes to Clemson football, we all know the sayings, all in, best is the standard, bring your own guts. Those are Dabo's words. So if you're Dabo Swinney, what's your reaction to Tom Allen's words when he says, I watched the first couple of practices of last season and the effort wasn't there. What they were doing was not it.
Yeah, this is a good question. I think that it was important for Clemson to bring in an outside voice. And I'm not going to criticize Clemson too much, certainly, because they're still near the top of the ACC. But I think, and everybody's going to have a different opinion about this, I think one of the reasons Clemson slipped a little bit is because Dabo Swinney got very comfortable hiring his own guys. I mean, who knows what those interviews were like when he hired somebody, say, like C.J. Spiller. He knows C.J. Spiller. There's no interview process. You know who he is, you know what he's accomplished, and you know that he understands the Clemson way. But when you go get someone like Tom Allen, this is someone that's bringing experience from Big Ten country and the Midwest, and he may have a different way of looking at football than you do, which means everybody's got to be on the same page and got to be on board with that. And I think it's quite telling that he says that Clemson almost, you know, as you said, he didn't like what he saw. Maybe they were a little bit too comfortable at times in the last couple of seasons based on, you know, resting on their laurels a little bit with what they've accomplished and who was on that coaching staff. And I think it's a great move for Clemson. And I don't know that Tom Allen's going to necessarily work at Clemson and they're going to challenge for a national championship again, but I think it was a good hire. I'll say that. I think it was important to go outside the family to bring a different voice in.
Matt Smith, Smitty, joining us right here on the Fan Upstate, talking all things in state of South Carolina. Let's transition, Smitty, from the gridiron to the diamond. A quick scoring update for the Tolos out there. Davidson leads Clemson right now, 2-1. That game is in the top of the fourth inning, so moving at a pretty good pace over the bottom of the fourth inning. Clemson has 2 on, trails 2-1 to Davidson. Clemson 12-1 on the season. But when you talk about South Carolina baseball, Smitty, you and I were having this conversation earlier today at Bon Secure, and you know it's interesting. I think, Smitty, that when Paul Mainieri was hired, people for the most part thought, man, what a fantastic hire. They got someone who's proven. They got someone who's been around the game for a long, long time, and South Carolina is in good hands. Now, I want to be very clear, that could still be the case. However, I think we have to remind ourselves sometimes, Smitty, that all stories like this don't always end in a good way, in a wonderful, beautiful ending. All stories don't end well, is my point. What do you think this tenure, whether it's 3 years or 5 years, of Paul Mainieri at South Carolina will consist of?
You know, I'd like to know how much Paul Mainieri thinks he has in the tank.
Yeah.
And also the fact that Ray Tanner, his friend, probably a large part of the reason he took the job is not going to be at the helm anymore at the university.
Yeah.
Let me say this. I was face-to-face with Paul Mainieri earlier this week after South Carolina beat the Citadel, and I really liked him. I think it's important, and especially in college baseball, because 52-game schedule, or 54-game schedule, all those things. you're really positive. And I think he is a positive guy. I think he's very happy to get this opportunity at this level again, a national championship winning coach. But to your point about how long it goes and if it ends well, I think that all depends also on how South Carolina responds to him. It won't be easy because they're going to play a ranked team every weekend in SEC play. That's just the way it is. I think he's going to handle adversity. Will his players handle adversity? Will the fan base handle adversity? Because he knows what he's up against. And you said all these stories don't end well. Let's go back and look at one of the times that South Carolina did this, and Steve Spurrier hiring a coach that had already accomplished a lot somewhere else at Florida. In Maneri's case, national champion at LSU. Similar situation. And if you remember, Steve Spurrier, he didn't go out and win 11 games early. It was, 7-6 and 8-5, 9-3. He kind of built his way toward the apex of what he was going to do. You have to give Paul Mainieri the same amount of time. And then also, we have to understand this. Does someone at his age have the patience to deal with NIL and all that goes into that and all of the transfer portal? It's a different game than when he took his first job, however many years ago. Is Paul Mainieri going to connect with Monty Lee, who's able to connect with recruits, and be able to build this South Carolina program back into what it was 10 years ago when Ray Tanner turned it over to Chad Holbrook? All that remains to be seen. All I can tell you is Paul Mainieri oozes baseball knowledge. He's brilliant. He's positive. He's all the right things. But will the fan base and all the good baseball players that are in high school in South Carolina get on board with Paul Mainieri? Because that's what it takes. It takes both sides. It's not just being a good coach. Plenty of good coaches don't succeed. Plenty of older good coaches don't succeed. Can he succeed based on the fact that high school coaches and his assistants and his players buy into what he's selling? That's what we have to wait and see.
Well, Smitty, we've seen Paul Mainieri make a little change in his lineup. They have started to give more playing time to Bo Hollins, who, now that he's actually getting some at-bats, he's absolutely clobbering the ball at a 438 clip. So, now that we are, 13, 14 games into the season for South Carolina, do you kind of shake things up and move some players around and see if somebody else can start getting hits, or do you trust the process and let these guys get more and more at-bats and hope they finally start connecting?
Well, I'll say this, and I think you brought up an interesting name in Bo Hollins. Well, he's the kind of guy that can bat behind Ethan Petrie in the lineup. Ethan Petrie's hitting, I know the numbers because I wrote the story the other night. 420 batting average, 532 on base, 820 slugging for Ethan Petrie. Those numbers are incredible. That is off the charts, Babe Ruth, Ty Cobb type numbers early in the season. So who hits behind him? Because the first SEC series, Oklahoma's not going to give Petrie anything to hit. Yeah. So do you have enough players that can make this lineup long, where you've got threats, not just in the 3-hole, not just in the 4-hole, but 6, 7, 8, 9, because that's what it's going to take to win games in the SEC. You mentioned juggling the lineup. I think I would be in favor of that. Don't let anybody get too comfortable if you're South Carolina, because even though they've beaten all of their opponents except for Clemson, I think there still needs to be competition before they play their first SEC series. I feel like this team is not playing its best yet because Paul Mainieri doesn't know everything he needs to know about this team yet. I think he's trying to find that out, and I'm interested to see. They'll play Morehead State, who, by the way, is not a pushover. I know if you hear Morehead State coming out of the Ohio Valley Conference, you're thinking, this ought to be a sweep for South Carolina. Won't be that easy. Louisville, who's a pretty darn good baseball club and a good baseball program, only beat Morehead State 9-8 earlier this week. They're going to put up a fight against South Carolina. So you ask me about, are all the answers there? What's he going to do with the lineup? He doesn't know. I'm certain that Paul Mainieri goes to bed every night not knowing who's going to bat 5th, 6th, and 7th in this lineup. I think those answers are yet to reveal themselves. He just wants to have them before they play Oklahoma in the first SEC series.
All right, Smitty, before we let you run, you started the interview with, a little smart comment about LeBron. I ask you, somebody who's of the age of 164 and above, what will it take? What will it take? I opened the show with this on Wednesday. What will it take for you and the rest of your buddies and your conglomerate to finally admit that LeBron is better than Michael?
Well, I don't know that you would have to push me to admit anything. I always think that I shift the conversation, but I'll try to give you a short answer. You really can't do it.
Oh, my gosh.
No, and I mean that. I mean, he's not going to play long enough to win 7 championships, for instance. So I'm just telling you, this conversation will go on forever, just like football. There are people who are older than me that will tell you, and there are people, young people may scoff at this, but I've talked to plenty of older people who know a lot about the game of football that will tell you nobody ever surpassed Johnny Unitas. They'll say that. There are plenty of older boxing experts that will say that even Muhammad Ali didn't surpass Joe Louis or Rocky Marciano. So if you ask what has to happen, the only thing you could ever do is you have to have the longevity and the championships and the statistics. And LeBron can get 2 of those 3, but he's simply not going to win enough championships to just stamp out the conversation where people will get rid of it. And you know what? For your show, that's probably a good thing. It's just like Pete Rose gambling on baseball and not being in the Hall of Fame. You could, on every radio show in the United States, you've been able to bring that up every July 19th since he retired and always get phone calls on the topic. And you'll always be able to go to the studio and say, I think LeBron James is a better player than Bill Russell, Wilt Chamberlain, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, or Michael Jordan. And you know what? You're going to get phone calls. And I think the debate will continue, and I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's a good thing.
Okay, if you say so.
I just got a text, Smitty, in your defense, I just got a text from a friend who said Cole saying that younger people say this make Cole sound 15. So he called you 147. Yeah. I got a text, Cole sounds 15.
I'll take that.
Hey, look, I hear what you're saying. I try to respect what happened to the generations and what came before us. And you scoff a little bit. You think it's a mic drop moment that LeBron is better than Michael Jordan? And forget Michael Jordan. I mean, talk about Wilt Chamberlain. Talk about Bill Russell. Talk about Kareem. I don't know. I don't know that anybody gets a mic drop, walk away moment when you talk about the best basketball player, baseball player, or football player of all time. Hey, the only one we've got is Gretzky's the best hockey player, and his goal scored record is about to be broken. So the longer our lives go, the more interesting these conversations happen to be. You're just not going to convince me that there's no other side to the argument. I'm trying to think of anything. There's always another side to a sports argument.
You need to go to politics, okay? We've had enough of you. You a politician is what you are. I mean, Smitty, the politician. Hey, as always, man, we appreciate your time. Get back to your golf game.
All right, let me see where I am. I'm 7 under now through 12. I played through that entire interview, and I made 4 pars.
We need to get Smitty an NIL deal in sidestepping questions. How about that?
You're the best, man. Appreciate you. See you tomorrow.
Matt.
Oh, you guys are the best. I love that you've got a great following. I love your listeners. Tweet at us at SC Sports Now. We've had to change because Elon Musk locked us out.
No, somebody forgot the password, didn't they?
Yeah.
Well, no, we've got knocked off the air several times in terms of Twitter. So at SC Sports Now, Cole and I'll be following the women's basketball tournament all weekend long. Tweet at us, and we'll talk to each other while we're sitting there.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate
Matt.
it.
Appreciate your time.
Good stuff, man.
That's good stuff. Yeah, when we come back, Cole, it is time for you, well, maybe not you, but you, plural, the Tolos, to get in on the conversation. Get out your phones. Be ready to call 844-FAN-PHONE. What would your weekend rotation like a Friday starter, Saturday starter, Sunday starter. B, for beers. We're talking alcohol next. 97.7 FM in Greenville, 97.1 in Spartanburg, and on the free Odyssey app. there anything better than an ice cold beer on a beautiful sunny day, Cole?
Well, I don't drink beer, so I would say
Nerd.
Yeah, I could say that'd probably be.
Have you ever drank a beer? I mean, if I brought one here, I got one in my.
Can't do it. It's the most disgusting
what?
thing. Yeah, you know that.
I love
beer.
that. I love beer. I like light beers. I like dark beers. I like fruity beers. I like bitter beers. I like all kinds of beers, except for sours, because sours just suck. Whoever decided, let's make a beer taste like straight up lime juice and dirt, the answer is no.
That's how they all taste like that, don't they?
No, they don't. Some of them just taste like heaven raining down from the clouds. When you're having a bad day, crack open a beer. It changes everything. There's a brand new SNL sketch. Shane Gillis. He says the cure for everything. Couple of beers. Look it up. But every solid baseball manager, Cole, knows that you need a rotation starter rotation for a weekend series. How does that normally go? Well, you got your ace on Friday that you throw to get ahead in the series. That's your best pitcher. You want to get ahead in the series. Then you've got another ace that you throw on Saturday. He locks up the series win for you. So no matter what, if your Sunday guy craps the bed and can't get it done for you, you got the 2-1 series win. Then you've got your slightly developmental guy. Maybe he's nursing an injury that you think has some potential. He tries to close it out for you on a Sunday. The pressure isn't as high on him.
What are you bringing up
to win it out
for? You said mental guy.
Huh?
You said mental guy.
Mental guy. Developmental.
I know.
What?
I'm
confused.
Didn't get the joke.
I didn't even hear what you said.
It's okay.
What did you say? Say it again.
No, I don't want to take shots at Dewey. I don't want to take shots at Dewey. The show goes on.
Say it again.
I hadn't heard from him today.
Yeah, where is Dewey today? What Tolos? Cole's the only one here who doesn't drink beer.
Well, there's only 2 people in the room.
Well, I mean, they're all in the room with us.
Oh, you think I'm the only Tolo that doesn't drink beer?
Dan B is in the room with us. Sugarcane is in the room with us. We got Scotty from BMW in the room, all the Tolos on the text line. What, Cole, not you, forget you for a minute. Not
forget you.
Yeah, forget you. But Tolos, if you had to put together the most elite 3-beer rotation, your Friday, Saturday, and Sunday starters of beers, what would they be? Here's your chance to call in, interact, be a part of the show. 844-FAN-PHONE, 844-326-3663. 3 beers that you go to often that you always can count on to get the job done. Get into the stream, get into the text line, and call us at 844-FAN-PHONE.
Texter Diesel from the 803. He has a problem with the question. He says, asking me what beer I love the most is like asking me which one of my children I love the most.
Yeah, but like parents say, I can't answer that question. But you know which one you love most right now, because like if the 5-year-old is being super sweet, the 2-year-old's being a total jerk. And you like kind of love the 5-year-old just a little bit more. Right now, it's not that you changes how you parent them, but you just know like that one's being a D-head, that one's being nice. So I like the nice one more right now. So I'm going to give you mine, Cole, and I'm going to give Dan B. Dan B's already got his in. Very interesting choices, Dan. Not the way I would go, but Dan B has his choices in. What are your go-to 3-beer starting rotation for a Friday, Saturday, Sunday series? Dan B says he's going Busch Light for his Friday starter. Busch Light is his Friday starter. Natter Days is his Saturday starter, so Natty Light, and Bud Light for Sundays. Dan, we got to get your beer choices up, man. Like, drink what you like, I guess, but like you got to understand there's better out there. There's much better beers out there than Busch Light, Natty Light, and Bud Light. So
those feel like very big brand generic.
Well, they do. So, but like, go to your local Ingles Market where you're going to see a huge selection of beers and wines. We're not talking about wines here, but talking about beers here. So here's my Friday starter, Cole. My Friday starter, Sam Adams Cold Snap. Absolutely lights out every single time you put this beer on the mound. This beer is a spark plug for a great time. It throws hard. It's got a fastball in the mid to upper 90s. It always has great command. The problem is, Cole, when you're throwing gas like that, when you're throwing 96, 97, 98, you sometimes open yourself up to some injuries and prolonged stints on the injured reserve. Cold Snap is not available all year round. Cold Snap is kind of like a Chris Sale. It's excellent when it's available, but it isn't always on shelves year-round.
Oh, come on,
What?
Chris.
Dan B says he likes those beers because he is cheap AF. Dan B also says that I am describing beers like Sean describes. I assume
Who's
you mean
Sean?
like Sean describes hot sauces on hot ones. He
Oh,
says
that's that video. I
Natterdays
remember what you're
is
talking
the strawberry beer, not regular Natty Lights. Sugarcane says Narwhal, Mexican Cake, and Death by S'mores, all 14% stout beers. And he calls us all rookies because he's drinking something called Narwhal Mexican Cake. At first, I thought you said Mexican Coke, and I was like, God, that sounds like a beer I want to try. And Death by S'mores. Death by S'mores. Come on, Sugarcane. Do you need like a baby bottle and a nipple on that thing to drink something called Death by S'mores?
Have you? I mean, you hadn't heard any of those?
I haven't heard of any of those.
Wonder if they're like local.
I don't know. Narwhal, Mexican Cake, and those sound like weed strains. Those don't sound like beers to me. Those don't
Might want
sound.
to check that and see exactly what
You got to have some variety in what you drink. So Sam Adams Cold Snap is my Friday starter. Tolos who are texting in at 844 fan phone. Texter says, as a father and an alcoholic, I resent this question. Okay.
I think that was the same one that said he was choosing between his kids.
Ah, okay.
That's good.
Well, you know what? I don't know your life, so I don't. I didn't know that it was going to trigger you so much, sir. Texter, this is from Scotty from BMW. Says Mike's harder screwdriver, Friday through Sunday. So he only drinks one beer. Come on, Scotty. You gotta branch out a little bit. Try more than one beer. Scott the Cajun says Bell's Two-Hearted Burial Surf Wax.
What? What does all that even mean?
Is it Bell's Two-Hearted and then Burial Surf Wax and then the Miller Lite? You got to put some punctuation in here because they all run together as one sentence. Texter says Friday is Ultra, Saturday is Corona Light, and Sunday is Coors Light. All coming from John Dog. All coming, and I know for a fact that we have a resident beer expert listening to the show right now, judging the living hell out of all of these beer choices. Dan B says pork chops in a can for sure.
What does that mean?
Sugarcane said each one of those beers have 2,000 calories per beer. Says pork chop in a can. A lot of calories.
Yeah,
in
a lot
those
of
beers.
calories.
So my Saturday starter, Cole, is Voodoo Ranger Juicy Haze. If you've never had a Juicy Haze, it's like people realize that beers don't have to taste like crap.
Yeah.
Like IPAs were such a huge thing for such a long time. But the problem is IPAs taste like earwax. They're not good. So they decided, hey, let's actually make these IPAs taste good. And so they made hazy IPAs, and they taste great. So Voodoo Ranger, Juicy Haze, this beer never, ever disappoints. It always hits. Doesn't matter if the weather is good or if the conditions are a little bit against it. It comes in clutch every single time. It's got a killer slider, and you know that Voodoo Ranger is destined for the big leagues. And what I mean by that is every time you go somewhere where somebody says, hey, I'm bringing some beers, they always bring the Voodoo Ranger Juicy Haze. The word is out. People know that this is now a delicious beer.
That's your Saturday?
That's my Saturday beer. Let's see here. Texter says Friday is Natty, Saturday is Natty, Sunday is Natty. Natty Light, Natty Ice, Natty Bow. Those are three very different beers. So tell us, Tolos, which one is it? My Sunday starter, Cole, Coors Banquet. This beer has been around the block a few times. It's seen some things, kind of a grizzled veteran. He's been promised a shot in the majors a couple times, but nothing ever happened. And so he understands that it's maybe just not meant to be. So Coors Banquet is a little jaded. Haven't been in the game for a long time. It used to be an ace, but it's lost a thing or two over the years. But some nights, when the weather is crisp, it'll surprise you at just how much it's got left in it.
How about that?
There you go.
Well said. Very well said. I guess. I don't know. I believe you, though. Tolos, continue the conversation at 844-FAN phone. Want to give you a quick score and update. Clemson leads Davidson now. The Tigers did take the lead. 3-2 is the score. Top of the sixth inning, Davidson has 1 on, 2 out. So Davidson, man, who's 4-7 overall, is giving Clemson a game. We'll keep tabs on that. South Carolina starting in about an hour from now. But SoCon tournament starts this weekend. We were supposed to be joined by Bob Ritchie, but he could not make it today due to some scheduling issues, whatever that means. But we'll talk SoCon hoops and where the bracket.
We're not bitter about it.
Yeah, bitter. Us, bitter? SoCon hoops next. South Carolina baseball just tweeted out their lineup for tonight's game against Morehead State. Nathan Hall, Jace Woida, Ethan Petrie, Kennedy Jones, KJ Scobie, Bo Hollins, Ryan Bakes, Jordan Carrion, and Henry Casmar. Matthew Backer on the mound tonight for the Gamecocks. That's a lineup, Diesel, that is going to continue to get exposed, in my opinion. Hopefully I'm wrong, but man, that is that bottom half, it's top heavy. It is a top heavy lineup. So we'll
moving
see.
Bo Hollins into the starting lineup, I don't know about his fielding, but his hitting is there.
Yeah.
And limited opportunities at the plate this year, his hitting is there.
And how long will he stay in the lineup? I mean, obviously they're dealing with some injuries, and I don't know. It's tough. We'll see. They really need some good at bats from this lineup because it could get tough later on in SEC play. However, Diesel, the SoCon tournament is this weekend. You know, we talk a lot about Greenville hosting the women's SEC championship, and it gets a lot of the conversation. People are there, packed houses. But up in Asheville, there will also be some pretty good matchups. Mercer, Western Carolina, underway at this very moment at Harrah's Cherokee Center in Asheville. VMI versus the Citadel starting tonight at 7:30. I am going to try. Let's see if I can get a update on the first game going on.
29-25.
Mercer leads 29-25. So Mercer is on top. And then again, tonight, Citadel versus VMI. Tomorrow, Chattanooga will play versus the Game 1 winner, which might be Mercer. We'll see. So Chattanooga will get the winner of that game. Game 4 Diesel at 2:30. UNCG will play the winner of the Citadel versus VMI, who plays tonight at 7:30. Game 5 already set. The opponents are at 6 o'clock tomorrow night in Asheville. ETSU versus Wofford. Going to be a tough test for the Terriers. Seasons are coming to an end, man. Like you work hard all off season. You work hard all season long, and you get to this SoCon tournament, and if you lose, your season's done. I mean, there are no postseason hopes, you know.
Tough draw for both Wofford and Furman. ETSU, real good team, 12-6 in conference. Furman gets Samford, also 12-6 in conference. I mean, neither one of them is UNC Greensboro. Neither one of them is Chattanooga. But it feels like, man, they got the short end of the stick. Did not get to ease into this conference or into this conference tournament at all.
They'll be tested right off the bat. And like Michael, who called into the show yesterday, brought up, Furman having to now beat Samford for the third time this season. That's what's interesting. It's hard to beat a team one time with Samford and some transfer players that they have from D1 programs that are high-level SEC D1 programs. Hard to beat a team twice, but then you ask them to beat them 3 times. We'll see. It should be good. On Sunday, Diesel, March 9th, the Game 3 winner will play the Game 6 winner, so there will be a game at 4 and then again at 6:30. And then the championship game is Monday, March 10th on ESPN or ESPN2. You or I, we're still waiting to see what Monday will look like for us. But Wire to Wire will be live from the SoCon Championship. We hope Furman's in it. If not, we'll be sitting up there talking about maybe Chattanooga, maybe ETSU. We don't want to talk about them. Our listeners don't care about them.
We want to keep it local.
Yeah,
that's what we do.
So good luck to Bob Ritchie and the Furman Paladins, who again tomorrow night 8:30 tip. That's a cool little venue up there. I've been several times with Wofford, following Wofford and pulling for Wofford Diesel. That there'll be some good crowds, especially. You talk about Sunday's games at 4 and 6:30, man. There will be some good crowds there for those. So
no, I love these smaller conference tournaments. I mean, they're sad in a way because only one of these teams is going to advance into the NCAA tournament. But that also means that these tournaments are the end-all be-all for these teams. It is.
Oh yeah.
It is
it's
survive. Survive and advance. This is postseason basketball for these teams. It's not the SEC tournament where 13 teams know they're getting into the NCAA tournament. So if they lose, it doesn't really matter. It almost actually behooves you in a way to win a game early in the SEC tournament and then just go ahead and lose. That way you've still got high-level competition, but you're not getting as rusty as some teams that don't make it or that don't get out of that first round. These Southern Conference tournaments, man, it's a big deal. It's a big deal, and it really should be something you put on your list to go and do this weekend. If you can make it up to Asheville, go to this game because you're going to see some high-level basketball, and you're going to see players fighting for their seasons.
A lot locally. I mean, right now you have Clemson baseball in town. You have South Carolina Lady Gamecocks in town. You have Asheville right up the road, right? A lot locally going on right now in sports. And, real quick before we run, Diesel, you and I on this show spend a lot of time talking to the Tolos about, well, what moves the needle around here for people, right? What do you want to talk about? What sports do you care about the most? And after the past 2 weekends, I think it's safe to say, yeah, certain people like, NBA, certain people like this sport, certain people like hockey, certain people like soccer. But what have we witnessed the last 2 weekends? We have witnessed, Diesel, 2 professional venues being taken over by 2 fan bases that don't like each other, right? South Carolina Clemson sells out Floor Field last week, and then this weekend, South Carolina Gamecocks show up and show out in Greenville at Bon Secours. It just goes to show college athletics around here, man. They rule the minds and the hearts of the Tolos in the upstate.
Yeah, it's hard to kind of get a beat on some of these Tolos sometimes. A few people will like a sport, but we know that if it's college, you guys are into it. When we come back, Cole, we talked about this very briefly a few minutes ago in our Daily Wires, or I guess about an hour ago in our Daily Wires, about the Celtics player that spit some teeth out on the floor. Well, I got a sports injury, Cole, that puts that and everything else we mentioned last week, and all the Tolos texting in, oh, you remember when this guy got hurt, or remember when that guy got hurt, puts all of those to shame, and you've never even heard his name. Justice for this athlete. We'll tell you his story next. Anybody got some spare cash sitting around? Because if so, we could band our money together and go buy Mac Brown's Chapel Hill, North Carolina house because it's now back on the market.
For?
$6.6 million.
I want to see a picture of
it. Ross Martin NC on Twitter is where you can find this post. It was put up just about 9 hours ago at Ross Martin NC. The house sits on not even an acre, Cole, 0.85 acres. That's tiny, especially when you're talking about the size of a house that is squeezed, shoehorned onto this lot. I mean, I would love to have the probably $1 million home sitting behind Mac Brown's house when you look at the very first photo that was tweeted out of this property. It is a gigantic house that looks like it's got 2 wings on either side. So you walk in through the front door.
Looking at it.
You got one big wing on one side, one wing on the other side that look like they could be houses in their own right. There is a beautiful looking infinity pool in the backyard that falls down into another pool because, of course, it does. When you're the head coach at North Carolina, you got it like that. There's also a sports, probably television, but also golf sim room in the house where you got the golf simulator, you got a couple of lazy boy leather Barca loungers to sit and watch sports on, and it's got a big beautiful dining room with what appears to be zebra skin all over the walls.
So whose house is that behind? Is that somebody else's house? That close?
Yeah, that's somebody else's house.
What?
It's Chapel Hill, baby.
Good.
Real estate is at a premium.
I mean, it's literally the other house is right behind his, but there is a wall. I mean, I like the pool. I mean, if you're looking at the picture of the pool in Mac Brown's house, you can literally see the house behind it.
Yeah,
is literally just over the bushes.
And that house looks tiny by comparison, but I guarantee you that's a big house too.
That's nice, man.
The house is 5 bedrooms, 9 bathrooms.
More baths than, yeah.
Yeah, in an historic neighborhood, walkable to North Carolina's campus. You've got a private terrace, courtyard, hot tub, pool, game room, and golf simulator, among other things. I mean, because what else does the head coach of North Carolina need?
So he's selling it, and it can be yours. $6.6 million is all.
$6.6 million bucks.
That's a governor's mansion, isn't it?
It's gigantic. But like I said, I mean, real estate is at a premium in Chapel Hill. You got to squeeze these big time houses together. I would love for Mac to move back to the mountains full time.
I think they said he is.
Be a little analyst
they said he's,
for App State. Come on now,
Mac. I think
Mac.
I saw something where he's moving back to where? Somewhere up where he's from, maybe? Up where?
I know he's got a house. I think he still has his house in Blowing Rock.
Yeah, I think he's somewhere he's moving back up there.
So good for you, Mac.
You know what?
I mean, enjoy the spoils of your long and tenured and storied career.
The only thing that house does not have is a pickleball court. I mean, most houses like that nowadays do.
You got to go down the street to the private club for
that's
pickleball.
Insane.
Cole, we had a very spirited conversation about 2 weeks ago about sports injuries. And anytime you talk about sports injuries, people always bring up, Derrick Rose. They bring up Bo Jackson. They bring up Joe Theismann, all these scary injuries that have happened in sports. And all of those are very, very bad. I'm not taking anything away from those sports whatsoever, Cole. But if this injury happened to me while engaged in my sport of choice, I think that is the universe's way of telling me, retire, bro. Stop doing the sport. 27-year-old Swedish cross-country skier Remy Lindholm has opened up about not once but twice, freezing his little Wilhelm solid while competing in the 50-kilometer, that's 31 miles because we're in America. We don't understand what kilometers are, cross-country skiing event.
Where in the world do you ski 31 miles at? That's a lot of...
Yeah.
Like straight at one time?
Yeah. Cross-country skiing. It's not downhill. It's cross-country. You're on the little skinny skis where your heels don't click into any bindings. and you just go. That's
a lot.
It's very popular because like in Sweden and Norway and Finland, those places like that, you can't go out and jog or jog as they call it.
It's always snow.
You can't because there's always snow on the ground. So you got to cross country ski. It's their equivalent of jogging. But the problem is, Cole, after you freeze it the first time, why don't you either immediately make a change in your lifestyle and stop doing it, because nothing is worth losing that. Nothing is worth losing that. Or figure out a way to keep the old twig and berries warm while you engage in this extremely cold outdoor endurance sport.
They don't make, I know they make hand warmers, right, that you can put on your hands. They make those body warmers that you can, like, literally tape to your body.
Yeah.
Why not
it's not
just,
hard.
How long, I wonder, in this cross-country skiing, though, I wonder how long they're out. Because to freeze your, you've got to be out there for a long time. Hours and hours upon end, right? 10 hours? Is that too much?
The cross-country skiing record was won. The cross-country event was won in 2022 with a time of 2 hours and 5 minutes. So it normally takes about 2 hours and 15 minutes for elite-level cross-country skiers to do this.
So he froze
the last
his little
event was
thing
1 and
off
2:05.
in 2.5 hours?
Yeah, well, not off.
Well, not
because
off. Sorry, it's still there. Sorry.
Part of it,
Maybe.
at least. Part of it is still there. But yeah, they go out there and they compete in these little aerodynamic scuba suits. Why not just drop a hot hands?
That's the problem.
Down there.
See, they're not wearing enough clothing. That's their fault.
It's not going to cost you the race. Those things weigh nothing.
I'm looking at pictures.
They're not aerodynamic.
They don't of the skiers.
Oh, okay.
They don't wear. It looks like they have on.
I was like, well, did you put on Safe Search when you Googled this?
It looks like they have on a puff jacket and a pair of jogging pants. They don't look prepared. 2.5 hours, though, is all it takes to freeze them.
Yeah. But see, these guys, they do go out and train to withstand the cold. There are photos of Remy all over his Instagram where he goes out and sits in the snow. Like he made a lounger out of snow to just like sit and hang out so that he can get used to the extreme cold. But I guess.
I wonder what extreme is, though. 0?
I don't know. I don't have the answer to that question, how cold it was. The last time it happened was in 2022, the Olympics in Beijing. This happened a while ago, but he's now coming out and talking about it to the public. He said, quote, it was just about battling through, talking about being out there in those extremely cold elements. When the body parts started to warm up after the race was finished, the pain became unbearable. Officials gave him a heat bag after the race in an attempt to thaw out his frozen body part.
God, that sounds so painful.
Just hang it up, man. Like, nothing is worth that much. Most guys pursue athletic.
Hang one up.
Yeah. You may have to put it on a string and just carry it around his neck because he's not using it for anything else.
Ooh.
But no, like, guys get into sports. Some of us get into sports for, like, the money and the fame and the accolades and the girls. Like, you're taking away one of the most important reasons to get into sports if you no longer have a ding-dong. So what is this idiot thinking? Going back out there and competing again. I just don't get it.
You got to figure out how to, and like I guess part of the sport is to be able to wear not loose clothing, but minimal clothing to be able to, I don't know, still go fast. But you still got to figure out how to. There's ways around that. That's just dumb.
You go out and hunt, and oftentimes when you go hunt, it's very cold.
Oh, I've stood in.
So you got, like, hunters know that you either wear a nice warm coat, or people they make the electric coats.
Listen, I have stood, Diesel, in water up to my, I'll say, above my waist, in 15, 16-degree weather.
Yeah.
And the water's frozen, obviously. Many a times duck hunting. You got to go through
those waders
ice.
Don't keep the cold out. They keep the water out, but not the cold.
No. But there's a lot of layers and layers underneath. So that's his fault. I don't really feel bad. I know I should feel bad for him. I don't feel bad for him at all. That's dumb.
It feels like to warm that thing up, you need more than an ice pack. You need you need to throw it on one of those hot dog warmers at the 7-Eleven. Warm it up, rotate it, get some Heat getting in from all sides.
Sugar Cane on the YouTube stream says, so cross-country skiing, you could also lose a groin. Ask Lonzo. Well, I'm confused.
There was a promo running for a while about losing a groin.
I do think
I'm trying to remember the context now of this particular promo. I know I heard it many times. I'm trying to remember the context. It was a Rob Brown, Lonzo
if it's them
argument.
on a promo, there probably is no
That's
throw
true.
the context out the door.
That's true. We don't know, Cole, by the way, if Remy, to be fair, Remy Lindholm, that's his name.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know if Remy is going to compete at the Winter Olympics that start a year from now. Did you realize we're that close to the Olympics again already?
Winter Olympics a year from now? Was it every
4 years? Yeah, but it's on an opposite schedule of the Summer Olympics. So we have Olympics every 2 years.
I don't think I realized it was already coming around. I mean, I don't know.
Dan B says he remembers the promo vaguely as well. Rob, are you listening? I know Rob Brown tunes in. Rob Brown is also a Tolo who tunes into the show from time to time. And we need the context of this losing a groin promo.
I was driving to Greenville this morning, and he also was talking about how, speaking of injuries, he had a terrible injury last night. Rob did. Have you heard about it?
No.
Yeah, he had a pretty bad one last night.
Where could Rob have been last night? Rob works with the...
He was on the radio until...
Oh, on the radio.
But it wasn't on the radio.
What did he do?
It was in bed.
Oh, no.
Not that.
That sounds a little personal.
Yeah.
I know his wife. She's a sweet lady. So I don't know if you should talk about this.
He brought it up. Let me see if I can find it.
Oh, if he brought it up, it's fair game.
He brought it up, and I don't know if I can find it.
By the way, has Rob run his 40 time yet?
Rob in 40 time? Let's see if we can find it.
Offensive rebounds.
All right, so it's the final hour of the show because I was driving to the well, or is it Bon Secure? Bilo Center. I still call it Bilo Center. But I think it was around.
Thus far.
Let's see.
We will start with the little NHL hockey.
Nope, it's before this. It's before this.
So you're telling me Rob will spend an hour and a half talking about how he's faster than us at running a 40 rather than just go outside and run the 40 and have it done in like 10 minutes.
And if you hear this, you'll think there's no way he can run a 40.
Yep, again, 40. I put it under my butt cheek, and I'm just...
All right, here we go. This is...
what a time to jump in.
What she used to be.
Oh, gosh, that was a great time to jump in.
I think it was like 2020.
Let's see if... I think this is it.
2023. It's like summer 23 when the Eagles came to town. You ever watched your favorite band play with a mild self? An ever so brief reminder that the old gray mare, she ain't what she used to be. All right? I ain't an old man, but I ain't a young man no more.
I think we're close.
Y'all, I need to know, because Alonzo's already said he does. I need to know if any of y'all out there are aware. I don't like you, Sean. I need to know if any of y'all.
You should love him. That's your brother.
I do love him. Okay. I don't like him. There's a difference.
Okay.
If anybody else has dealt with this, because I did last night.
Here we go.
The first time.
Here we go.
This has never happened to me.
This was Rob Brown injury.
Couldn't perform.
Finished the show at 11. Was in bed at 11:30. I was out about midnight. And
I can't believe this is. I mean, this is
usually transitions to me sleeping in a little bit. I'll sleep in till like 3:45. Okay, so I slept in a little bit till around 3:45.
What a life!
Or that was the plan anyway.
That would be
because
miserable.
About 2:15 a.m. I was awakened from my slumber, and I was awakened by one of the worst immediate sparks of pain I've ever felt in my life. From the middle of a rock-solid sleep, I was out like a light. I awoke to a cramp in my right butt cheek.
I told you.
I cannot begin to describe to you. Like, you know how you have that pain? And it's so pain that, like, you can't even make a noise.
He said it's so pain.
You're just
so
like,
pain.
and that's all you can get out. It was that.
Do you realize how many promos we can make out of this?
I'm going to be disappointed in you, Cole, if you don't supercut all of the things Rob Brown has said here between rock hard, my right butt cheek, and so pain. There better be a supercut out of this.
There's like not. I want to hear that
Like,
again.
you know how you have that pain?
Here it is.
And it's so pain that, like, you can't even make a noise. You're just like, and that's all you can get out.
That is great. That's got to be on a promo.
So here I am,
laying
in the bed, fighting for my life, with my right butt cheek cramped up tight, going, because I also know that if I, like, squeal as I wanted to a cramp.
I'm backing up. I got to hear that one more
in
time.
my right butt cheek.
So, anyways, that's how that ties in with the topic of the guy losing his jingy because Rob had a bad cramp in his right butt. That noise that he made.
Begin to describe to you.
I am slightly older than Rob, not by much.
Have you ever had that happen?
I've never had the right butt cheek cramp.
I want it one more
so
time.
Pain that, like, you can't even make a noise.
Here
You're
it
just
is.
like, and that's
That's got to be cut. That's got to be.
You know what?
Oh my
This is.
gosh.
You know what? I am so proud of Rob for being confident enough in himself to get this vulnerable.
Oh, it was vulnerable
on the radio in the upstate of South Carolina.
It was funny. I was driving to Greenville listening, thinking,
you know
this
what?
is great.
That is called being a true radio professional who knows that your life is content for the show.
Whew.
No matter what's happening to you, bring it on the air. The Tolos are dealing with it too.
Butt cramps?
Never had a butt cramp. Now I have had
I don't even know if
I have
there's
had a sore ankle so sore that I couldn't walk on it at all for no apparent reason.
Yeah, but what's in your butt cheek that, like,
your glute is one big ass muscle.
I've never had a cramp there though.
It's a big ass muscle and it's a big ass muscle too.
I've never had I don't know. I'm not saying it's not possible. That's just weird. I don't know.
Wow. Does it? Go ahead.
I was just going to Google something.
Does it make back to Remy? Does it make a sport more compelling to watch, knowing that a competitor might pay so steep a price that his manhood is gone, that he comes out like a Ken doll at the end of this thing?
No, I don't think that's. I don't think that's
now
positive.
We're gonna have his. You know, they all have crews, right? These guys can burn up to 1,000 calories an hour competing in this sport. Are they going to have somebody whose job it is? One guy's got that little squeezy tube of the high protein goo.
Yeah.
And then it's somebody else's job to get one of those little laser thermometers and point it at Remy's crotch to make sure it's not getting too cold.
So I've asked Google, and Google has given me a lot of good info here on Rob's butt cramp that he had. Google says women are more likely to experience butt cramps than men, so there's that. Age is also a big factor, according to Google. Pregnancy is also a big factor.
Is Rob pregnant?
I don't know. It also says it could be
it's a boy.
It could be constipation or hemorrhoids. He could have hemorrhoids.
I think you should start sending Rob all of these WebMD articles to scare the living you-know-what out of him.
I mean, you think about it.
Rob, you need to go get checked for hemorrhoids. There's a good chance.
Just think about this. If he wouldn't have talked about it, and we wouldn't have brought it up on the radio, and I wouldn't have Googled it, how would he know that he has hemorrhoids? He might not ever know. So I'm taking your advice, and I'm gonna do just that. I'm concerned.
Gonna send him a WebMD article?
Oh, I've already done it. I've emailed.
That's sweet.
I've just emailed.
It's called looking out for your coworkers.
You're copied on it as well, so you should get it. But
good.
There's an email that is warning. Its subject is must read. So just so he can be sure that there's nothing going on there that he needs to. I mean, there's a lot of things, man. You can look. It's like 1, 2, 3. It's a lot. That just doesn't happen normally.
Texter says, Joey says, if transgender women want to compete with biological women, got to do this first. Talking about the 50-kilometer dinghy freezing off cross-country skiing event. Cornchip says, my wife got mad. Rob mentioned her lactose intolerance last week when I texted in, and he went with it. Well, Cornchip, I don't know if you know this, but legally anything you text to us is permission to talk about it on the air. Unless you say,
please don't.
No takebacks.
Yep.
And then in case, we got to keep your secret.
Well, I'm telling you, man, that's he might want to get that checked out. Rob.
Scotty from
Rob.
BMW. That bunghole hurts and burns, Cole. Imagine a hot cactus. What are you talking about, Scotty?
We got to go to break on that one.
What are you doing?
That is a good one to send us to break. Shane Connuck, the Charlotte Observer, he joins us next.
awaiting Shane Connuck, who is joining us now as we speak, jumping right into the stream. Shane, you look like you got some special digs around you. What's happening, man? Where are you? Tell us about this.
Yeah, stopped at Bojangles, had to drive 20 miles an hour through MacB and made it here to Florence, South Carolina for these state basketball championships.
Love it.
Through where? Where did you say you drove through?
MacB, the town where you have to go slow down to 25 miles an hour?
That's Greenwood. Yeah. Greenwood, South
Well,
Carolina.
MacB, the one on the way when you're going toward Darlington, if you know, it's like a thing you go in a NASCAR race.
I thought you were talking about Mayberry from Andy Griffith. I didn't know where we were going there. So, Shane, let's figure something out a minute. Shane is with the Charlotte Observer, Diesel, but he's covering the South Carolina state championships. What am I missing? Shane, tell our Tolos.
Yeah, we've got Lancaster going for a state championship. It's first at the 4A level at 4 o'clock. Girls game happening right now as North Augusta takes on West Side. A lot of games happening today, tomorrow, this weekend here at the Florence Center.
Lancaster.
Wow.
Lancaster. Where's Lancaster? Is that towards Charlotte, Shane?
Up in the upstate. In the upstate, the Lancaster Bruins. They haven't won since 1949-50 at the Class A level, and now going for their first 4A title. They lost to Irmo a year ago. Got a kid, Jordan Watford. He can play. He's going to be playing at Queens University up in Charlotte. An all-around big man. He can shoot. He can take threes, and we'll see a lot of them today.
Shane, you wrote, and I know you had a podcast discussing one of the brightest up-and-coming stars in NASCAR. I want you to tell us more about Connor Zilisch. I know you're high on him. Other people around the sport are high on him. What makes you think this guy, Connor, is going to be the next big thing?
Connor Zilisch has just raced at so many different levels. It's not just that, these guys grow up in Charlotte and they get their whole life preparing to begin in NASCAR one day. He has already won the 24 Hours at Daytona. He has already won in various international motorsports series. And then once he turned 18, he joins Trackhouse Racing's development program, in addition to just hanging around the track, working with guys like Kyle Larson. The vet's already taken him in. And again, he has experience in nearly every level of motorsports.
And do you think this guy, I really do find it intriguing, the transition, like when you talk about going to Sprint Cup, for Connor's standpoint, or from his standpoint, when you talk about him being a talented racer. How long does it take drivers like that to kind of get conditioned and familiar with the week in and week out grind on the sprint level that's different than other levels?
Well, we see it takes more than one race. It takes more than one race, but Connor Zilisch got into Xfinity cars, and he has won several times. He's good on road courses. He has won on road courses in the NASCAR Xfinity Series, most recently on Saturday. So this is a guy who, yes, the Cup Series is a different level, but he is showing that he knows what he's doing when he gets into NASCAR cars at a very young age.
Shane, you were saying there that, he's gotten in with some of the more established drivers a little farther up the pecking order. What is that culture like? I remember a few years ago, who was it? Ben Roethlisberger said that he was not going to mentor, was it Mason Rudolph, I think, because, I guess he looked at him as competition, and he's the guy that's coming for his job. So he's on his own. I'm doing my own thing. What's that culture like among NASCAR drivers? If they look and see somebody that is working their way up, is it strictly within teams? Is it strictly within, we think this guy is going to be a Ford driver or a Toyota driver, so they kind of mentor their own? How does that work?
And it's interesting because at this point, you're getting it. Some of these guys become owners of themselves, and then they got to worry about racing for their own self in addition to other drivers whose cars that they own. So you're starting to see that now, where how much older are these drivers getting, that you're in your 20s, you're in your 30s, you're worried about your own career and winning a lot more races for yourself. Or you can have the Denny Hamlin approach that he started, where, all right, I've won a few Daytona 500s on my own. I haven't won that championship, but now I'm going to own two other cars that have a chance at getting toward that championship. And then that creates the dynamic where even if Denny Hamlin doesn't win that championship, he was a regular season champion with Tyler Reddick a year ago.
It seems like a heck of a way to also build up a stable of guys who will push you from behind. If you mentored a guy or two, they're not going to be looking to cut you off at the knees and pass you and bump you and spin you out. They might give you a little bump because they owe you a little bit, huh?
Yeah, exactly. And also, especially a guy like Connor Zilisch, who's that young, coming into the sport at this new time when you're having so much different ownership and different stuff changing.
Shane, I didn't know if we were going to get you back on. I saw on TikTok earlier in the week that you've now went big time on us, right? You're was it PRN at the track that I saw you? Was that right?
The Performance Racing Network.
On
yeah,
TV,
it was on there earlier in the week.
TV star. I mean, it's LaMelo Ball. Charlotte Observer is his day job. You know, I mean, we just are fortunate to have Shane on. Let me ask you about excuse me, Shane. Let me ask you about last week's race. I told Diesel at some point last week that as much as I do try to watch the week in and week out races, that I struggle with the road courses. However, I didn't struggle as bad as I thought I would on Sunday. The road course, Circuit of the Americas, Echo Park Automotive Grand Prix, I didn't think it was terrible. I actually thought that it was a pretty good race. They did a very good job, I thought, Shane, of explaining the layout of the track, the ins and outs, the turns. Christopher Bell, dominant once again, 2 weeks in a row. What were your overall thoughts? And I guess how would you have graded last week's race?
COTA's another track that continues producing good races where we're seeing strong winners, even if it ends up being that the entire last lap is just Tyler Reddick thinking maybe he'll come up when he started on the pole and led the race early, that he will be the one with the most speed, kind of like William Byron at a recent COTA race. But no, held off by Christopher Bell in the lead, winning for the second straight week. It shows that this is a track that produces good races. Like you said, a road course doesn't have to be this just mess. They're turning multiple ways and it's going to be not a legitimate winner. No, the best drivers in this sport are starting to figure out how to win in these races.
Shane, NASCAR has always very much been a boys' club. It's been dominated by the boys. We've seen some females make their way into the sport. Not a ton of success, not a ton of longevity. How much support does, and I'm going to say her name wrong, I promise you, Catherine Legge, how much support does she have from her team now? And how well does she need to perform at Phoenix to become maybe a full-time driver?
She has a lot of support right now, and it's very exciting. Now, first time since Danica Patrick, a woman will be getting into a NASCAR Cup Series car in the race, and so this is going to be interesting. See, she has raced a lot in her own right, and so now getting into the Cup Series level, it'll be interesting to see what she does, but she's got a great team with BJ McLeod, that live fast motorsports on Sunday.
Shane, Sunday is the fourth race of the season, starting with the Daytona 500. If we talk about bugaboos, what would you say the bugaboo has been for NASCAR fans through three races? Mine would be not letting them finish the race at the very end and throwing a caution like we saw a couple of times. What would you say NASCAR fans would say their bugaboo's been through the first 3 weeks?
I would say it's simply been the scheduling of the racetracks themselves. When you start the season with back-to-back super speedways into a road course, a lot of people have just been saying, we'll know what we have after Phoenix this week. The first time in the week 4 that you're actually on a typical intermediate track. Now, that puts certain drivers in a hole. I mean, it's interesting right now when you look at Christopher Bell, who has won 2 out of the 3 races. He's 4th in the standings. The idea isn't that that's just head and shoulders. That you get the points, you win the race. There's just so much at stake through these first couple of weeks. And when you have the crapshoot that is produced by these super speedway races right at the top of the season, it can just make or break the season for a lot of drivers. And so this early in the year, this is now not the first time that Daytona and Atlanta went back-to-back to start the year. They're not the first time we've had this discussion about what is COTA's future on the schedule, road courses. And I think a lot of people are just kind of wondering, is this the best way to start the year with these different types of tracks? And now we're looking at the standings and it's like, is this reflective of the sport right now? And so I think the biggest thing will be next year, whether or not COTA comes back. It probably will, but when is it going to be on the schedule? Are you going to have the nerve to put a road course like that early in the season?
With this amount of passion and energy, it's not surprising, Cole, why Shane Connuck is getting on PRN. You know, that is the big network for NASCAR. He's essentially the Michael Collins of NASCAR. You know, Michael Collins, who covers golf, is so full of energy, and that's why we keep bringing you on, Shane. Look, it only gets mentioned on this show in passing, very rarely. As a matter of fact, we're making a promise to our audience to really only mention it one time a year. But Charlotte FC and MLS just had their opening day last weekend. Can you give me a real pulse and a real sense of how healthy MLS is in Charlotte? Has it kind of peaked? The people who like it are going to like it, and that's about it? Or do you think MLS is still growing?
It's only going up, especially in the Queen City. Charlotte FC began its 4th season, and the past couple of years, it's had the 2nd best attendance in all of Major League Soccer. The only team that's got more than them, Atlanta United. Atlanta drawing 40,000 fans a game to Mercedes-Benz Stadium, while Charlotte, this young team, brings 38,000 to Bank of America Stadium. And that home opener you talked about, Charlotte played Atlanta and got a 2-0 victory. Wilfried Zaha, the Premier League star, comes to Charlotte FC, scores a goal in his Major League Soccer debut. 51,000, and that's on the low end of a Charlotte FC home opener. Normally, they're going over pushing 70K. So soccer is growing, especially in the city of Charlotte, and the MLS has a big spot in the Queen City.
Hey, Shane, one of our TOLOs, which stands for Turn On, Leave On, JD, on the text line, wants to ask you a question and says, can we ask Shane his thoughts on Cindric not being suspended but catching a points penalty for right rear hooking Ty Dillon?
That was interesting, and I think what that was NASCAR deciding that was how it was going to go about its news story in the middle of the week. That was just such a moment from the race. It happened. We all saw it, but it was kind of further back. It was like, all right, how are they going to penalize Cindric or not penalize Cindric? And that was what NASCAR decided to do with that one.
JB on the stream cracking a joke. He says Charlotte FC fills Bank of America more than the Panthers do. And he's probably not wrong there. We spent some time yesterday talking about the Carolina Panthers draft and what they're going to do in the first round of that draft, maybe what they should do in the second round as well. In your mind, they've given so much effort recently to building up some offense. I know it's not where they want it to be. Does it feel like they have to go defense? I mean, they certainly need defense, especially at the edge position. But is it a foregone conclusion that they will, no matter what, go defense to help that side of the ball?
I think it feels that way right now. It feels like they brought in enough weapons on offense already and then in the draft it looks like they're either way. I have a feeling it's a best available kind of situation with this particular team. They see someone they love, that's who they're going to go with. Either way. Like I know, being a fan of the New York Jets, one player is far from what we're changing matters right now.
Yeah, I like that. I like throwing that in there. Shane, on Sunday, the Shriners Children 500 in Arizona and Phoenix. What do, for the NASCAR fans out there who are listening and plan to watch on Sunday, what do they anticipate or need to anticipate, rather? Short track, is that right? Semi-short?
Yeah, consider it an intermediate track, about a mile and a half. And the whole thing with the way that we've got the championship race on there with the dog leg, fifth turn, as they say, it's a unique track that a lot of people have different feelings about. I do think the spring race has produced just a standard, strong, intermediate track race where you kind of get a sense of, you start to see, all right, who are the fastest, which cars are the fastest in the sport, which drivers are the best, because it is an endurance race like that if people compare it to. And it really is a reflection of who is the best racer.
You know, Shane, I've been kind of tracking NASCAR's viewership numbers over the past couple of years, and they had been dropping for a long time. But now it seems like NASCAR numbers are on a rebound, and a lot more people are tuning in and watching again. To what do you attribute that? Is it NASCAR's doing a great job marketing itself? Is it that the rule changes are making races more exciting? Or is it just some sort of a cultural shift among younger viewers that they're tuning in to watch NASCAR for the first time and they're sticking around?
I think NASCAR's continued to do a great job capitalizing on its base, knowing where it has people who every week of the year might know the race is going on and might be inclined to put it on, and bringing the sport back to those tracks more and more. And then starting to make it consistent that it goes to somewhere like Circuit of the Americas in the middle of Austin, Texas, not necessarily in Dallas or in Houston, but in a new market that then has the ability to reach even more markets in the state of Texas, and then brings that race there every year in the beginning beginning of the season like this, it creates something that then again, you put that on Big Fox, the way they had the first 3 races there. They'll have the rest of them on FS1 or the next 7 on FS1 before we get into Amazon Prime Video taking it over with the Coca-Cola 600. And so that is NASCAR starting to figure out where to broadcast these races and maximize that viewership, whether it's putting it on at a certain time they think works. Something I noticed was last year, there was this ARCA race at Daytona. ARCA being the series below, like technically below the truck series, not as much of the regulars at all. And then that race was ending at 2 a.m. It was on FS2. It was like, who was watching this? But on social media, everyone's watching it in the NASCAR world. And then that ended up being on Big Fox in the middle of the afternoon this year, presumably getting higher viewership numbers because they realize where they have the viewers and they figure out how to maximize it.
Shane, what's the expectation for when they do transition over to Amazon Prime? Because, you know, the traditional Fox broadcast, that's where NASCAR has been for years and years and years. It's logical for them to be on FS1 as well. But when you move over to a major streaming conglomerate the way that Amazon Prime is, what's the expectation for how viewership changes? Are they expecting any kind of a drop-off when they switch from basically over-the-air to streaming only?
So with those 5 races that are going to be on Amazon Prime Video, I think they're expecting great viewership numbers because the idea is that they're marketing those 5 races even more. Not to mention that they're going to have the in-season tournament going on with the 5 races that are on TNT Sports after that. But with the Coca-Cola 600 starting it off with Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the booth, it feels like NASCAR has been planning this for a while and is going to have those 5 races on Prime Video stand out even more in the middle of this season.
Shane, last question for you before we let you run. Denny Hamlin was very dominant last season at certain points, obviously, until, you know, the championship comes around. Still unable to get that championship that he's looking for. But as of so far, just still early in the year, only 3 races under the belt, it hadn't seemed like Denny's been as dominant, right? I know one of those obviously was a road course where he's not usually as good, and it favors guys like Shane Van Gisbergen more than it does Denny Hamlin and Joey Logano. But Denny just hadn't won in the first 3. In your mind, is this a lull, or do you think that he's going to be right there in the mix Sunday as well?
I think he's going to be right in the mix. He hasn't gone anywhere yet. You know, early in the year, like I said, you never know. Even if someone looks to seem like it's a really top car, Denny has still got it. And especially like I was saying, those 2311 cars, as fast as they've been, Tyler Reddick, after winning the regular season championship, seems to be legitimately one of the best in the sport. That, again, meaning who's the guy who owns this car, meaning he'll know how the 11 car's going before he's worried about the 23 and 45. And if the 23 and 45 are figuring out, it's a matter of time before we see the 11 in victory lane.
Shane, you're the best, man. We appreciate you. Have fun covering the basketball game, Lancaster, you said, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Have fun, man. Appreciate you.
Talk real soon.
Shane.
look out the window of the studio. Well, I guess look at the backside of the stippled wrap that they put on the windows. What do you see
Black.
through those windows? Black. It's terrible.
Black.
Terrible darkness outside of the Fan Upstate studios, but no more. This is our last show in darkness. Our last show that will end in us driving home with the headlights on. Thankfully, we're back to daylight savings time, and I'm willing to give up my hour of sleep to get that.
Yeah.
Because I hate this.
I hate it just as much, if not more.
Not fun.
So Sunday? Is that right?
Yes. Sunday, we spring forward an hour.
Yes.
So we lose it. So if we do it Sunday night, do we do it Saturday night going into Sunday
night,
morning?
Yeah. Saturday
Okay,
night.
good. So we don't lose an hour of sleep going into a Monday work week.
Yep, it's Sunday.
Okay,
We can get
good.
it
So
back.
we've got that hour to deal with.
Yep.
So I'm glad that we're not losing that. But look, as many executive orders as Donald Trump is putting forth right now, and some of them have questionable merits, I think, this could be the one, Cole, that I think almost all Americans can be pro. Like pro getting rid of daylight savings time. Let's get into daylight savings time like we are going to be on Saturday night, Sunday morning.
Yeah.
And then just leave it right there forever.
So in the wintertime, I think it would probably, instead of getting dark at like 5:30, it'd be 6:30, right?
Yeah.
Be a little better.
Like, because these greedy SOBs who get up in the mornings want their sunlight in the mornings.
Yeah, taking their kids to school.
That's crap. Like, daylight savings time was invented to give farmers more time to harvest their crops.
Yeah.
But farmers don't harvest their crops anymore. Machines do it. Robots do it. When they invented daylight savings time, they couldn't even fathom the idea of one of these like 4-story tall harvesters. You don't need to be out in the fields all day anymore. You go out there, you use the harvester, you pick your corn by lunchtime, and then you go back to the house and you make TikTok videos about being a farmer. That's what modern farming is.
I don't know. I don't know why, or I don't know what, I guess I would say the hurdle is. I'm sure there are a lot of people out there who are still opposed.
Well, some states don't even do it.
Yeah.
Like Arizona, right? Arizona doesn't do daylight savings time. So you're telling me that if I'm in New Mexico, like on the western flank of New Mexico, and it's like noon, I drive right across the state line, boom, it's 11 a.m.
Yeah.
The hell is going on? Like, how are people supposed to, like, now your phone just does it for you because it just geolocates where you are, and it knows, like, I'm on the East Bank, I'm on the West Bank, I'm at noon, and I'm at 11 a.m., depending on which side of this arbitrary line I'm on. So why can't we just come together and get rid of daylight savings time? I guarantee you there's not one Tolo who thinks, yeah, we should keep daylight savings time.
No, I think eventually it'll be canceled. I just think for whatever reason there are people who are going to have to die before you can. I mean, no, really. I mean, that's like any law.
Oh, you mean like of natural causes. I thought you mean somebody's going to have to die.
No, but I'm saying there's
Like a movie
probably
trailer.
5 or 6 senators, Diesel, out there who are opposed to it, and they're 84 years old,
Ancient bastards.
And they're
Get outta
probably
here.
the ones keeping it that way. I mean, come on. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. I wish we lived in a world where it never got dark until 9 o'clock. Never, ever, ever, ever. I want it dark at 9 o'clock. It's when I want darkness.
This sounds like a new verse to that old bluegrass song, In the Big Rock Candy Mountains.
Yeah.
In the Big Rock Candy
Look
Mountains.
at that court.
You never change your socks.
Look at that court. Is
and
that
little
not
streams
so
of
cool?
alcohol come a-trickling down the rocks.
I know I got distracted, but
in the Big Rock Candy Mountains. It gets dark at 9 p.m.
I don't know what you're doing right now.
I'm singing a song. I'm adding a verse, okay? First verse, same as the first. Call me David Allen Coe, why don't you? Wire to wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. Tolos, text in quickly. Do you think daylight savings time should stay or should it go? You tell us.
Tolos.